Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.
Answer me this question, because you youngsters can answer this one question.
Whippersnappers.
Here we go. We're gonna start. We're starting. We're on. We're just you know
answer
how it
the
is.
question.
We're just going.
We're just gonna go.
Okay. At what point in time in society did the enunciation of the letter T evaporate?
Because
Because it's not my generation. It's not people in their 50s. It's not.
In what
we say our
context?
T's. Like, if I say Martin, I say Martin. You say Martin. And my kid goes to me, my kid says something. If my kid would say Martin, he would say, "Oh, Dad, you know Martin." Like, who? What? Martin? A Martian? Martin. They don't pronounce their T's. And that's just the thing.
None.
And it's not
honey.
even the T's. There's another letter, and I don't know what it is, but it's R. There's another.
It's kind of like you roll it into like a D.
They
like
don't
nuttin'.
enunciate the T's. What happened there, and when did that go bye-bye? Because I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's always been a Pittsburgh thing.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard someone go take this down there?
Yeah.
Cool J. Mama said knock you out.
It might have been the one after that. I forget, but I had to convince my parents to take me and buy it, and they were like my parents were very strict, and they were like, we don't know about this, and because it was parental advisory, so you had to get them to buy it. So I just remember they gave me so much crap about this CD. They bought it.
Oh,
They
did.
take
got it from
the leaflet out and open it up and read the lyrics before they
They did all of that. Yeah, it was like, we're gonna let you listen to this, but we're gonna torture you for making us buy. So then, they, especially with the quarantine and stuff like that, they're retired now and everything, and it really rained on their party because they can't go out anymore and stuff. So they've been watching a lot of TV. They've always watched a lot of TV. But they were watching something the other day, and LL Cool J was the host of like a game show, and he's on one of the shows. He's on I don't know, one of the cop shows.
Yeah, NCIS or something like that. Or
Is it?
I catch.
I think it's NCIS. I think you're
I
right.
catch them watching so much stuff that he's in, and during Christmas they're watching this Lifetime movie, and it's like him and Queen Latifah, and my dad's sitting there watching it by himself, like, oh, and
I think like it's totally cool.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? I hate to bring up old shit, but remember,
I've been holding on to this.
Yeah.
We need to talk.
Right.
All right, I wasn't going to say it, but so I have to tell you the story, and I'm sure if I repeated it to you once, I apologize. I don't think you've heard it.
Probably not. I've only been here one time.
I think he's a little jealous.
I've been here a few more.
Talk about
She's a smart choice.
Talk about parents. That's yet to be determined.
Check my ratings next week.
We're not going to get through this, are we? So your dad's watching LL Cool J and giving you, years earlier, giving you grief about buying that stuff. My whole childhood was spent hiding Kiss memorabilia from my parents. My dad,
literally?
Yes. My father came into my bedroom. I remember this as pure as day. This is the story. I'm at a little desk by the door there. He opens the door. He looks around, sees Aerosmith and spooky Rush photos, and there's this big Kiss picture right above my desk. He grabs the poster. I remember the poster.
Oh,
it was a good one. He grabbed it. He's got it in the hand. And he says, "These assholes are not going to help you get a goddamn job." And I guess my grades had just come in. I guess, and, I can't imagine how bad they were. Yeah. And I just looked at him. I was probably laughing, but I gave the look of being upset. And he crumpled and he threw it down in the middle of the room and walked away. I promptly just shut the door and probably taped it back up there again. But fast forward. 2006, and I just signed this deal with Washburn to commission Paul Stanley guitars, and it was going to yield big money, and I had more the next year planned, and all these grandiose plans. I'm already doing all this cool shit in my world anyways. I called my dad on the phone.
I was about to say,
you
gotta let him know.
Hey, Dad, how you doing? It's your son. I just told him, I said, remember that time? And of course, he wouldn't remember, right? I didn't remember. He said, well, you pulled my pants. I just ordered, yada, yada, yada. And I guess what? I think I'm going to be able to pay my mortgage for a couple of years off of this one thing that guy with the funny makeup and the long hair and the platform boots.
Yeah.
He says, yeah. But I mean, think of all the other stuff, all the other good advice I gave you that came true. And he was right. He was right.
It's
in the end,
true.
But I let him have it.
Plus,
it was 1 in a million shot to get him right.
Right.
What were the odds of that coming true?
1 in a million
Yeah,
shot.
right.
1 in a couple hundred. And that's what his whole argument was like. Fuck yeah.
He thought he was making a really solid statement.
Yeah, but
Well, at the time,
you
it
were
was.
wise to capitalize on that.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yes, I was, and I didn't. I had all the paperwork and the signing agreement. And, Dad,
Oh, yeah, that's a
it's your
good one.
son.
You're like looking at the contract while you're on the phone.
Oh, they hated that shit. They hated any kind of rock and roll. Just scared the hell out of my parents. I had a Catholic mother she had the love your mom, but she was the charismatic arm of the church. It was charismatic.
My grandparents were in that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
speaking in
Very-
tongues. I
Yep,
remember like being like 12.
Yeah,
and
it's
sneak can't
serious.
find my mom. Probably wanted to borrow. I probably wanted to borrow 5 or 10 off of her. But I snuck down. I ran down from my house down to the church, and in the basement of the church, they're all sitting in a semicircle, with the lights low and candles lit, and they're holding hands, talking in tongues. Like these are like other women that are like moms of other kids I knew. Freak me the fuck out. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, horrified me. I'm still scarred, as you can tell.
We can tell.
You can tell, right?
It's obvious.
Yeah, so, yeah, just.
So you saw that, and then you're like, but Kiss scares you, Mom. Like,
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
kinda mixed
and
messages
Black
there.
Sabbath, and it's funny because Black Sabbath was off limits too, and Ozzy Osbourne, guy, he's a devil worshiper. They're all, and I'm saying to myself, but you're like holding a goddamn seance in the basement of St. Joseph's
Yeah.
Church,
It's all
right?
about context. It's all about context.
It's all about context.
Well, I swear, because that's like my mom had really Catholic parents, and so she never forced like religion on me, which was really nice. But then when I got into Manson, like I was telling you guys, like that was like she
Horrifying.
was sure that was the devil worship stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like she was pretty much cool with everything else, but it was like that was the one thing that like crossed her boundary.
'Cause
Yeah,
that
I mean,
was-
can you blame her though?
No, exactly. That's what I mean. Like
Yeah, there
and
was
I-
like that whole movement that he was like the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Like people were.
Antichrist superstar.
Yeah.
yeah.
Kind of said
I
it
feel
right
like
back.
he broke our parents in for like pretty much in
Yeah.
everything though, because now at this point I feel like my kids like what could they show me that I'm gonna be like, well, that's like scarier than what I brought home music wise
Yes,
anyway.
Yeah.
I look at that stuff as just being so, like the stuff I listened to, like early Kiss was so tame compared to this shit that came out in the 80s, 90s.
But it was
beyond.
probably just more their image, like guys wearing makeup and
Yeah.
leather pants.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that era.
I guess. But
My parents were super strict, and like I said, when it came to like the hip hop stuff, I think they were a little bit more scared because it was like me being a female, it was like scantily clad
Right.
females in that. But like they were bikers, so like a lot of their friends listened to like Black Sabbath and things like that. So I mean,
parents sound hip as hell.
they're hip.
They actually
Yeah.
are.
They're
from what I've
they're
seen.
much more fun than I am. But they
I haven't met them, but I see them on your social media posts, and I always
You
think
don't
they
like
look
them
pretty
kissing
cool.
in front of you, though. That I
no,
get the vibe of that.
and they
yeah.
love to do that. Yeah, yeah. They have too much time on their hands right now because, like I said, they're retired. They don't go anywhere because they're scared of the COVID. They're just like,
Do they just like FaceTime you and start making out?
We should totally
Now
do
they're
that to our
going to.
kids.
yeah, they're pretty bad about that. But yeah,
they're
but
going
like, I
to.
mean, I remember being really young, like 13, 14, 15, and being like, can me and my friend go to Ozfest? Will you drive one way? You know what I mean? Like, her parents will drive us
Jerry's
the other
mom.
way.
Jerry's mom would drive us to any concert. She was always
Yeah.
cool about that.
Yeah, she was pretty hip.
Yeah.
Which I think, like, that would be more what would worry me if I dropped my preteen off at this like there was like metal kids everywhere and metal adults everywhere and God knows what, but they were like, how bad could it be? Your uncle listens to Black Sabbath. It can't be that bad.
Well, now it's
So-
all gone full circle for me. It's terrible. Like, so once this happened, in 2006, and I started working with the guy, and then my mother would be calling me like random times during the week. Oh, honey, I was watching VH1. Did you? Paul Stanley's on there. He's singing a song. Did you know? I watched the Kiss 1984 live concert. It was on VH1, and I'm going. Now I'm getting the reverse. Like, Mom, I get it. Even I don't want to watch that old shit anymore. You know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden, if your parents dig it, it's no longer cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Where was this when I was 13? I wanted to go to a concert.
Exactly right, man. Exactly right. Yeah. What was your first concert?
First? Oh, I don't know. It probably wasn't anything super hit. I was a big Hanson fan. I think I went to that when I was real young.
Admitted that. I'll give you credit for that.
Yeah, I definitely give you props for that.
But I probably, around the same time, I probably did start going to like the Ozfest, the X-Fest.
Okay.
I think the first Warped Tour I went to was at the Icy Lake Amphitheater.
Yeah.
It was like a long time ago. So I was pretty young when I started going to all those like festival.
You remember the first one though? Probably Hanson. You said
Probably
it.
Hanson.
We're all just gonna think that's what it is now.
I'm pretty sure that might have been.
Okay. You?
Yeah.
It was actually Aerosmith. My mom was cool.
Yeah, it sounds like
she
it.
liked
cool.
Bon Jovi and Aerosmith.
That didn't make her cool.
My mother,
Aerosmith makes her cool.
yeah, but she had like these, like the late '80s, early '90s, like rock mags.
Oh yeah.
And I would
Hit
go in there
Parader.
and just see, all kinds of
Circus.
stuff like that. Yeah, circus. And just see these guys with these sleeves and demons like swallowing their
Nice.
hands and shit. And I would just look at it as a kid like, this is the craziest shit
Iron
I've ever
Maiden,
seen.
Priest.
I bought an Iron Maiden way before I was ready for it. Just
I've never heard it put that way. That's great.
Just because I saw the cover and I was like, it's so fucking cool. And it was Live After Death. It's where Eddie's getting hit right in the forehead with the lightning, and it's striking his shackles.
Yeah, I got it.
And I
admit
put
it.
this shit on. It's like 7-minute tracks. I was like, what the fuck is it? So I put it away for a while, but then I rediscovered it.
You
and
weren't ready.
I wasn't ready.
You weren't quite ready.
I wasn't ready. But my first concert was Aerosmith, and
I do.
it was the opener.
Skid Row.
Run DMC.
Skid Row. No, it was
I remember because I've heard this story before.
It was Skid Row, and they were so loud. I mean, they must have brought
Civic
their own.
Arena?
What's that?
Civic Arena.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they were so loud. So loud, made my stomach hurt, and I wanted to go home. And my mom was just like,
You're here.
"Well, that's not
Suck it up.
happening."
We already paid for
Your
these
mom
tickets.
said that. That's great.
She didn't say it like that, but
But she
looking
said it
back,
like that.
she had
Yes, she did.
she put it in a mom way, like I took you to this concert, and there's no fucking way that's happening. Well, sweetie, it's just really loud. Why don't you? I don't know. Probably just
Suck it up and deal with
said
it.
some kind of mom thing.
Right.
Just
That's
let me know
great.
that this is the
Oh,
way it
that's
is,
fucking
and we're
great.
staying for the night. And then Bon Jovi came on, and of course he wasn't as loud or as abrasive, and I was ready for that. I wasn't ready for Skid Row either.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
that's
that
so
would have
cute.
been.
Oh wait, Bon Jovi, Aerosmith. Wait a
Aerosmith,
second.
yeah.
What the hell did I say?
Is it Bon Jovi?
Aerosmith
You
was my first concert.
Okay,
Yeah.
and was it Skid Row that opened for them, or was it Bon Jovi?
No, it was Skid Row.
Yeah, because Bon Jovi probably had hit by then. By the time they made a comeback, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was an Aerosmith concert, and Skid Row.
I just remember Skid Row because I remember you telling me that it made your stomach hurt because it was so loud.
it was loud.
Really? At the arena? It was so loud it made your stomach hurt?
It was really
I mean,
loud.
he
At
was
the
like
arena?
8 probably.
I was young. I was probably like 9 years
Yeah,
old.
Okay.
his mom was
Maybe it
like,
was Bon Jovi. Maybe I'm screwing my own story up.
I don't know. I just remember the opener.
Yeah. It might have been Bon Jovi. I don't really know.
No, this is perfect because we have Jerry's Christmas
I'm
tree
gonna
from
call
when
my
he was
mom.
a kid.
I'm
And
gonna text my mom. She'll know.
so he's sitting there on the couch this year, and we've had this Christmas tree since like we were like in our early 20s.
Okay.
And we're sitting there, and he's looking at it from the couch. He's like, "Oh, I love our tree." He's like, "It reminds me of the tree I had growing up." I looked at him. I'm like, "That is the tree you had growing up," and you know it because like his mom gave it to
That
us.
reminds me of the tree I had when I was a kid. She's like,
All
that
the
is the
feels.
tree you had when you were a kid. Felt like a jackass.
Oh no!
Did you have a nativity scene? I asked this question because every time
Yeah.
I ask people that, they look at me like sideways. Like,
No, I have one.
Yeah, we
you
had
have
one.
one? That's not like
Yeah.
a rare thing. It's a
No.
thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I painted mine.
Yeah, like
it's
like,
ceramic.
it's like the
I painted it.
cows. There's like the
Yeah.
cows and then the hay and
Yeah.
the.
My mom gave
There's,
me
like,
like
the
the
three dudes
starter
with,
of
like,
it.
the presents
so it was
and
like,
things.
yeah, she's like, she
Yeah.
gave me the first few pieces of Jesus and Mary and Joseph, and then the angel, and then the guy holding the lamb.
Was it around his neck like there's one guy holding
Yeah,
around his neck?
he's fireman's
Yeah,
carrying
the
the
shepherd.
lamp.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shepherd. There you go, the shepherd.
The
yeah.
shepherd.
And then my 3 kings are Oriental men because they're these really tall.
They're Persians.
Like, yeah, they're something. I don't know. They came from some antique store that my mom gave them to me. But anyway, yeah. So I definitely have a nativity scene.
I had I had 2 of them, and the one I had, they were the 3 kings were kind of stout, And one of them looked just like Chef on South Park. I swear to God. Chef
Oh my
on South
God.
Park.
It was Bon Jovi.
Okay, Bon
It was
Jovi.
Bon
there we
Jovi.
go. Thanks,
Wait,
thanks Debbie.
Bon Jovi opened for...
No. It was Skid
Skid Row was
Row
the
opening
opener.
for Bon
That's
Jovi.
right.
And I must have been young because Aerosmith came later, and that was in 6th grade. So I must have been like 9 or 10.
So I'm guessing the show you went to was in 88. Is that right?
Maybe.
He would have been about. Well, I won't give away your age.
I don't care.
I'm just
I
I
don't
don't feel
care.
so. You guys are fighting about revealing ages. I'm all good with that.
I'm just kidding. He would have been 6. Because I would have been the same age.
I don't think I might have been that young. I remember being young.
Yeah.
When loud noises hurt your stomach, you're pretty
You're
young.
usually pretty young.
Yeah, I was young.
I didn't go to a concert until I was like 13.
And what show was that?
Bush, Goo Goo Dolls, and No Doubt.
Cougar.
Very
Oh, man,
90s.
you're so much cooler than all
I'm
of
so
us.
90s.
I know.
Oh,
It was
man.
All
Do
you
know what,
need is
though?
the meat puppets in there.
Alternative rock to a T. But do you know what?
Hootie and the Blowfish.
I wanted
Candlebox.
to go to Grateful Dead the year before, and my
Does
dad.
that qualify as a concert, though?
I don't. Well, here's the thing: is that my dad wouldn't let me go.
She's
and
still resentful.
And
She's
no,
hanging on to this.
I've told this story a lot. So my dad wouldn't let me go, and he goes, Julie, he's like, Jerry Garcia will be around forever. You can go see them another time. I'm not having you go in. It's a Grateful Dead. I think I must have been 12 at the time. 12 years old. Everyone's smoking pot. Don't you know? Like 3 months
find him in a
later,
ditch.
3 months later, he died. Jerry Garcia died like that year. I just cried and cried.
Missed
Okay.
opportunities.
Yeah, I know. I am so resentful about it.
I know.
I remember parading around my office when that happened, and I'm not proud of this, but I was laughing and saying, "I'm grateful they're dead."
Oh my God.
Finally.
Oh my God!
terrible.
I've waited so long for this day.
Savage.
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 Oh, they had some good tunes.
There's just nothing
They
about
spread a
that.
lot
but
of
touch
joy.
of gray.
Yeah,
They
spread
did.
a lot of
Listen,
joy.
if a band resonates with a group of people like that, I'm all for it. I just don't want to be one of those people.
Yeah.
It never really resonated with me. I see why people like it. It's feel good music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it?
People put that shit on and get high and just
Yeah.
People put that shit on.
Yeah, how many of the people
whistle
really saw
through
the show
Exactly.
when they went?
It's because it's alright.
The higher you get, everything gets better.
Oh my God. My dad had this bumper sticker on our refrigerator that said, "Who are the Grateful Dead and why do they keep following me?" And I like never got it until I was older because it was
pretty good.
like I was like growing up seeing this like every day and then being like finally like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah.
I took acid because of the Grateful Dead, but I
many
wanted to take,
people
but I
can say
wanted
that?
to take acid.
Just to escape it.
Truth be told, I wanted to take acid to be cool like Roger Daltrey. This is what I was told. See, you take acid, you're gonna be cool like Roger Daltrey. But the acid came from a Grateful Dead fan. So, and when it didn't work initially, I blamed it on the Grateful Dead. Until the next day, I wake up in my
It's a weird
buddy's
turn of events.
bathtub, fully clothed with the water filing down on my chest.
Yeah, I think it might have worked.
We're dredging up all kind of early childhood
Yeah,
resentments.
man. But that's what we do here, right?
I
This
know.
is therapy.
Do you know what I'm thinking about is go
The
around,
lava lamp.
go
Or we
around,
might need therapy after we're
no wait,
done.
go around full
One and two,
circle to the Marilyn Manson concert and we were doing Jerry Garcia acid there.
That's right.
Boom,
Yeah.
full circle.
It was wild.
It was wild.
It was wild.
It had like the Grateful Dead skeleton on it. That was what the picture on the sheet was, and that's why they called him Jerry Garcia's.
Mine looked like
we
a
had
piece
like
of
a-
lined paper.
We had a quarter sheet of it. And we
Did
ate
you
most
guys
of it.
ever see with the movie Party Monster with like Macaulay Culkin and there was a bunch.
I think I
I've
did
heard
see
of
that.
it, but I've never seen
and
it.
Marilyn
no.
Manson played Christina. He was
Oh,
like
no.
I don't know. It was all about like these club kids. It was a true story because it was about a murder or
I think
something.
I heard about
Oh
this.
wow!
Yeah, it
okay.
was a-
yeah, this sounds familiar.
Yeah, and it was like Seth Green and everything. But anyway, Marilyn, that's what it reminds me of because Marilyn Manson played Christina. And
Should I ask?
Yeah, I'm curious. Is this,
Should I ask?
in one scene, he comes up and he's driving this big like Mack truck. And they open up the back and there's like a party, like a rave going on in the back. And they're like, Christina, you're driving this truck. And here she like opens up her mouth and here she has like acid on her tongue. And I forget what the picture was, but that's what it reminds me of. You're saying you're at Marilyn Manson and like the picture that's on the
Oh,
paper.
that's perfect. I'm gonna
Yeah, it's
now I'm gonna want to watch that movie.
It's based on a true story, but it's a goofy movie. I mean, there was a lot of people that were in
It's
it
got
too.
Macaulay Culkin in it.
Macaulay Culkin, Wilmer Valderrama. But they all played like these club kids, like they got dressed up. And,
yeah. Rave scene kind
That
of.
was a
rave
thing in
scene.
the 90s. You guys lived the rave scene, huh?
Yep.
What?
Live to tell the tale.
Yeah.
Barely.
Yeah.
You know how there's always these kids that's like, oh, it's not about the drugs, it's about the music. We were like, no, it's about the drugs. Music's cool, but
If
you
you're
wouldn't.
in a warehouse on a dirty floor, slithering around in
Yeah.
cigarette butts and
This
whatever
is
else,
true story.
then
I was on
it's
like,
about the drugs a little bit.
I was on a shitload of ecstasy, and I'm on the floor. It's a dirty floor, cigarette butts and shit. Was at the Irish Center,
Yeah.
totally way past capacity.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just slithering around on the floor.
He's like gripped onto my leg. Like I was like sitting up and he's like sitting or like laying like on the side of my leg, just like slithered around my leg. And people just kept walking by and like looking at us. I'm like, it's cool.
Oh, you two were the scene. That had to be a scene.
Right.
That had to be the scene.
We've made many scenes.
True story.
No, the best part was like I remember our friend was driving and she was driving this like little tiny Saturn and it was like her first year driving. She probably was only 16 and we're driving home in like this one of the biggest snowstorms.
Fucking snowstorm.
There was no one, like it was all fresh snow on 279 coming home from like town and we're going to like
At like
Westview.
4 in the morning.
Probably 4 or 5, something like that. And there was 4 of us, as me and her boyfriend at the time and me and Jerry. Oh my gosh. And it was just, she's driving probably like 5 miles an hour on the highway because we're all still
I got a ticket.
fucked up. And there's like,
It's a speeding ticket. It wasn't going fast enough.
and I just like, I can't even believe that we got home. I don't know how that car made it home, like in that much snow. There was no one else on the road. Like there was it was not plowed. It was not salted. And we were all so fucked up.
Just flew home.
like-
Floated home.
We came in and we were with our friend Andy. And I was like, well, do you guys want to go sit on the stage over there? Because it was just people everywhere. And he looks, he goes, that's one big screaming orgy over there.
Really?
That was pretty much the whole club or the whole warehouse, wherever it was.
I remember I was in the men's room and there's all these chicks in there. And they're passing around this big bottle of water, just totally gooned, just out of their minds. They're just like skins all clammy. It was like sloppier than sloppy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the men's room.
Yeah.
With
Yep.
chicks.
Most of them were chicks. I think. I don't know. I was kind of fucked up. Maybe they weren't chicks. Maybe they're just really pretty guys.
I mean, it was the 90s.
Yeah. Who knows?
But the skin was all clammy. I still remember what they looked like. I was like, oh, you look like shit. I probably look the same.
I know.
Probably looking in the fucking mirror like you.
They thought you were pretty too.
I was probably looking in the mirror like, you look awful. You should go home.
No, you remember, like, you would like look in the mirror when you were on ecstasy, and you would think you looked so
Oh,
good.
yeah, you look like $1 million. And then you look in the mirror on acid and you're like,
just, like,
I
terrified.
died yesterday and nobody told me.
And then the mirror just melts.
Yep, that's the end of that story for sure.
We're off the
man.
rip-roaring start here. So we'll continue with the theme. Going this direction. Greatest concert you've ever seen. Not your friends.
Oh, yeah.
National act. Greatest concert experience. National act.
Fair. No ass kissing. I like it.
Yeah, I like that too.
We try to please.
Well, since we're still talking about acid, I'm just kidding. No, I will say
That you can remember.
No, I can remember
Actually.
this one. No, we saw Nine Inch Nails on the Fragile tour, and the
Ooh.
opener was Perfect Circle
When
on
they first
on
came
the
out.
Mare de Noms tour. So Mare de Noms was the opener for Nine Inch Nails.
Oh, wait,
And
Perfect Circle came from Tool, right? That was the
Maynard.
members of
Yeah.
Maynard,
Right?
yeah.
One member.
One member, and then
Yeah.
I feel like the other members are someone as well. Paul would know this.
Yeah, we're
answer.
terrible fans.
Yeah, we're not good
But
fans.
And then
I'm
Maynard's
confused.
also in Pussifer, too.
Yeah.
In what?
But I think he's the only one. Pussifer.
We went to don't ask. We went to a Nine Inch Nails concert.
I
Perfect
just want to make sure I heard it right. That's all.
Perfect Circle opened like when Perfect Circle first came out. It was,
Yeah.
it was
yeah,
exciting.
it was honestly just for like the fact that was the last album that Nine Inch Nails did that I thought. I'm not gonna say it's the last one I liked because I have the 2 after and I liked both of those, and I know
Okay.
that he's done a ton since then, but that was like what I think is like one of their most masterful
The Fragile.
compositions. So that just that experience of seeing that concert for that tour was pretty memorable. And then also, you know, becoming a Perfect Circle fan like right at that time period and getting to see them on their very first tour and tripping my fucking face off.
That helped.
I do remember the concert
Well,
though.
Nine
I will
Inch
say that I
Nails.
just stood on the lawn with my mouth like touching the ground the whole time because I couldn't put my
Yeah.
shit together.
Would like how far in Nine Inch Nails' career was that album?
The Fragile, it was
99,
Yeah, 98, 99.
something
was it
like
99?
that.
Was it
Maybe
before or
98.
after we graduated?
Maybe it was 98 because I think it was before we graduated. I think you might have been a senior.
Okay.
Or it was the year after you graduated and the year before I graduated.
99, maybe 2000.
Yeah, 99, 2000-ish.
They were touring for the Fragile, so I guess we'll have to Google that shit.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're terrible fans.
Did you see that video that Trent Reznor did with David Bowie called "I Hate Americans"?
Yes.
I just
No,
saw
I'm
that for
afraid
the-
of America.
I'm afraid of America.
I
Yeah.
just saw that yesterday.
It
for
was
the
pretty
first time.
hilarious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was pretty hilarious.
Yeah, it was good.
How
I
I
like
get
it.
sucked into
It's
this?
pretty hilarious.
Yeah. I remember when that came out. I remember seeing
was
that
a
like
while
on
ago.
MTV.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
It's
uh-huh.
pretty hilarious.
Yeah, yeah. So
was
that's
good.
that's my. I'm gonna put that down as my
Okay.
favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
You, sir?
Oh, that's a difficult question. Man, she stole a good
I was
one.
about to
She
say.
really did.
I know.
Let me think about something that just blew my frickin' head off. We've been talking about the old partying days, so I'm gonna try and. I don't know if it was the favorite ever, because I'm just gonna sit here. It's like when someone asks you what your favorite song
Well,
is.
that's
you're just
yeah,
like,
that's a loaded question.
Oh, yeah. We went to. I'll put a spin on it if you don't mind. My favorite recent concert, like
Okay, fair
last
enough.
5 years.
Fair enough.
We went to see, just like you said, don't say a Friends band, say a national. We went to Craft House to go see a Friends band.
Okay.
Wasn't really like super excited. Like I was familiar with the national, but like I went there to see my buddy's band. But it was Friday. They played at like 6 or something.
Yeah.
We didn't make it in time.
We missed our friends
You just
band.
changed it.
It's like we didn't.
We
get
definitely
all that
missed
build
our,
up and then you missed it.
We missed our Friends band. The band that was headlining was why am I blanking on her name?
Non-point.
Yes,
I
Non-Point.
knew you were going to
Yeah.
say that.
And
Yeah.
I mean, like they've been around since they had hits when I was in high school. You know what I mean? Like they've been around.
right,
like
right,
that's like
right.
20 years strong, more than
Yeah.
Bullet with a Name and What a Day. But I've never really like followed them that closely. They weren't like I kind of slept on them. You know?
Okay.
And they blew my freaking socks off. They
Yeah,
were
they
so
were
amazing
amazing
live.
live.
It was just like, even when you really like a band, you know, like especially when they're the headliner, you've been there all day. Probably about 3/4 of the way through, you're having a good time, but you're like, man, my feet hurt. You know what I mean? Like, you just
Especially now.
You know what I mean? Where you're just like, your feet hurt, and you're like, you know what? I'm not going to be terribly sad if they don't do 3-4 more songs. Kind of hope they just wrap this up so I can get out of here. I mean, maybe I'm getting older. I don't know, but
No,
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
they
You could be.
No,
the
I hear you.
whole
I've been there.
time through, I was just thoroughly transfixed. They were amazing. They were just smoking. They were so good live. They were just so good.
Yeah, I agree.
So good.
Yeah.
And I was thoroughly impressed, and they made a fan out of me. Not like I didn't like them before, but I was never that into them. And now, like, I pay attention to what they do. Whenever they come
Right.
out with a new song, I
Right.
was, listen to
Right.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
I
not big
agree.
for buying albums. I don't think anybody is real huge in buying albums anymore. But that one performance, they made a fan out
Well,
of me.
yeah, and it left that kind of mark on
Yeah.
you. They must have.
Yep, they were amazing.
Yeah, I like that.
I remember you guys talking about that, so I knew you were going to say that. And I do
She
like
knows my stories
non-point.
better than I do.
All right, your turn.
Well, like they said, that's really hard. Like when I think about how many shows I've been to, I would say, like, definitely, I think, like, anytime I've seen Tool or A Perfect Circle, that's been, like, one of those shows you leave there and you're, like, quiet on the way home. Like, it's...
You just need
it's
to like let it sink in.
Yeah, yeah. But really, I think, like, the underdog, like, I think one that people wouldn't expect is I saw Mary J. Blige one time, and I mean, it was amazing.
Everybody says that sees her live.
Yeah, it was. I was always kind of a fan, but I never had the opportunity to see her live, and she came to whatever it's called now, Star Lake. You know,
Yeah,
I
that's
think,
what we call
I
it.
think it's round full circle to Starlake again.
Yeah.
I saw an
Wait,
article.
really?
Is
I
it?
refuse to
Okay.
move on. I've never called it
I don't.
anything. But
I don't think anyone
I'm
has
always like
really.
Starlight or Peepa G or Post
Whatever the
Gazette
heck it
or
is.
whatever the fuck.
I want to say I saw an article that said that they
Burgers
were going to
Night,
like.
Burgerstown.
Yeah,
Burgestown.
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 And when she was there, she definitely didn't. I mean, it wasn't sold out. She didn't sell many tickets. It wasn't. It was very intimate. But she's an amazing, very emotional performer, and I definitely left there like kind of transformed. So
Transformed.
I like that.
Word.
Yeah.
What's the
How
worst
about
concert?
you? No,
You're making
come
me
on.
want to see Mary J. Blige.
I'd recommend it. I don't know if she's still. That was years ago, but I don't know if it would.
For me, is it the best concert experience as an adult, or is it the one that left the craziest impression on me because I was young and I was just in awe? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like a tough decision.
Either
That's a
or.
tough decision. First time I saw Rush, I think I was young. Like I was 78. I was 12. And you can't describe that. It's not. I'm not saying their music's good or bad to your liking. It's just you have to understand the era. I was 78. I was 12.
Yeah.
We had no internet. We had WDVE.
We had no internet.
Magazines that we had to find out about these bands, and we had albums that we would read. And no adult really knew what our music was. They just didn't know. And a band like Rush wasn't on like Don Kirshner's rock concert. It wasn't on the Paul Lynde Halloween special. It was nowhere. So sneaking to that show and then
Oh, you snuck it.
Oh, even better.
and going on the floor. I had seats up top and then working my way on the floor and then just walking through the mass of adults up close and just looking up there, and they were in like these Japanese kimonos and there was smoke and there was not a lot of stage stuff, but it was just they played it exactly like that. That band plays exactly like the record. I mean, really, it's real close to the record. And like that's when I experienced the concept of that was my music. It wasn't my parents' music. It wasn't like what my mom was into Zeppelin and Sabbath, and she was into stuff before that. But that Rush thing was mine. This was mine. No one could take it away from me. This was mine, and they don't have to understand it. I'm glad they don't even know I'm here. But I walked away from that in awe.
And got a little bit of identity from it.
I think so. I think
That
so.
makes sense.
But the best rock concert that I ever had has to be, I think, the Paul Stanley show, the solo show in '06, because he played Kiss songs. Here was Paul Stanley singing the Kiss songs with a really good band, you know, with like playing Kiss music with like people that really can play their instruments, with a keyboardist, you know, like an amazing drummer. Because it was the band from that show, Rockstar.
Supernova or Rockstar. It was Rockstar Supernova, and then they did an XS. Oh, I always
So
watched
Stanley stole the band off the show.
Did you
That
say
was an
it was like
amazing
Kiss,
house
but
band.
good?
Musically, yes.
it. Did you guys watch
Yes.
that?
No, I'm totally lost on that one.
Oh,
Yeah.
did you watch the show when it was on?
Yeah.
That house band was amazing.
That's it. And Stanley saw them on TV. He didn't watch shows like that. He said that my wife was watching at the time, and I was like, well, yeah,
Yeah, it
I'm
was.
going to take that band. She's like, well, how are you going to take that? They're on TV. He goes, I'm taking that band. On
There you
road with
go.
me, and sure enough, like they quit the show. The show kind of went
my
away
God.
because the band went.
Yeah,
was
because they had
gone.
2
We can
seasons.
tour with
They were like,
Paul
damn
Stanley.
him.
that was picture behind you, that black guitar. That's what from that show. Where he just went out there and just played Kiss songs that he wrote, but with a band that really just like, you know, it was so full and so good, and his voice was still really rocking in that era. It was like, wow, that left me. I was excited too because I was starting to make money and I was starting to do stuff like
Yeah.
you know, commercially with him, but. That show is just like that's how Kiss should have always sounded.
Right.
The songs
I hear
are
ya.
solid. It's just they need better
Yeah.
musicianship.
Now,
You know what I
did
mean?
you watch that show? Did you watch Rockstar
Supernova?
or anything when it was on?
No, I was aware of it. I kind of probably breezed through it. Yeah, maybe.
I still follow some of the musicians.
Really?
What it was
That's cool.
it was a competition show.
Yep.
So the first
Oh.
season was in excess. They were looking for a singer, but when these singers would try out, they'd try out with this house band, and the house band was like amazing.
Yeah.
It was kind of.
Okay.
And then the second season, they made this band called Supernova, and it was Gilby Clarke
Yeah.
and Jason Newsted and Tommy Lee.
Oh, wow.
And on both seasons, I think Dave Navarro was like co-hosting or something.
Right.
Like
that's
he
exactly
hosted
right.
it
That's
or
exactly
something.
Right. Yep.
So they would have these people try out to do vocals for these bands. and it was really hard not to be fixated on the house band that they would like trying out. They would learn all these songs, like these they would do covers and then they'd do some originals. These people that were trying out, it was amazing. So I never knew what happened to them, so I'm glad you told me that story.
He took them out on there. Raphael Morera
they got stolen by
was the
Paul
guitar.
Stanley.
And the drummer was un-effing believable. To hear somebody, and then the show was at the Palace Theater in Greensburg. That's where it was. And I had a photo pass. I had, I spent a half an hour with Paul beforehand talking about all the stuff we were going to do, guitar-wise. So now he goes, yeah, you want to take pictures? Just hang out in front. I'm like, okay. Well, yeah, I didn't want to stand in front because you know how that is. There's like a space between this first row seats. But I shot some photos, and I had nowhere to go because I think I gave me a free ticket, but it was back a ways. I just walked to the side of the stage, and the guitar tech, Fran Stuber, ends up being a great friend of mine, goes, hey, come on up here. So I ended up standing side stage of that show, which is good and bad. It was just so powerful. Like that was... If I think about rock and roll shows that left a mark on me, music that I love, played well, and executed well, that would probably be it. I've saw a lot of great shows in my day, but I mean that was.
I think like concerts too, like they also like have the impact that they have based on like when you see them too. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like whether you're like
timing's
at a pivotal point in your life, or like whether you're just like ready to hear that music in a different way from a different perspective or whatever. I don't know.
Like certain songs like just take you back to that place in your life, especially when you haven't heard a song in like 10, 15 years. Yeah, that you used to listen to a lot.
That's the beauty of music, though, right? It's like it's a time jog.
Well,
it's
time
a tease
capsule.
Actually for your head, because it takes you back and you feel the same feelings to some degree that you were hopefully feeling at that moment, but it's not really there. You're not really there.
Yeah,
but sometimes it's almost like richer if you're like coming at it from different perspective. Like you're having that memory of like what it felt like to be experiencing it in that moment, but then like maybe you're at a point in your life that you're not so broken or not so like because different. I mean, there were times I remember like some of the music that got me through like the worst times in my life. I can hear them now, and it still kind of like might jog some of those memories, but like...
Are you detached from them? Because I feel that way.
No.
It's some of those songs that meant so much to me earlier in my life because of an emotional connection.
I wouldn't say detached. Sometimes it's just the experience just feels different. You know what I mean? Like I'm not, like I said, maybe I'm not in so much pain, so I'm not like feeling it like, busting through my soul in the same way, but it still touches me, you know what I mean? And I'm hearing it in a different way.
There's certain albums I listened to while I was going through some shit. Just listen to them non-fucking stop, and then you never want to hear them again.
Yeah, that's true too.
What was that one band? I listened to that album, Hollywood Undead. I can't remember which album it was.
Oh yeah.
But I listened to it non-stop for like a month, and then I literally...
I remember this.
Threw it out the car. I was like, cool, made it through that crazy shit. Bye.
I remember that very
clearly.
They're
another one. If you're in a bad place, they're kind of...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have songs that you hear on the radio right now that, although musically it's a good song, but you just don't want to fucking hear it under any circumstances?
Yeah. Yep.
Like this is going off.
Yeah. Yeah, there's plenty of bands that I can appreciate. Like, oh, they're a good band. Oh, you like them? No, I can't stand them. No, don't put that shit on.
Right. I definitely have like bad luck songs that I'm like
bad luck songs.
Yeah, I guess I kind of think of them that way, but they're just like they put me in a different
bad juju.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm like, if they're played, I feel like it's just I don't want to be jinxed, so I turn them off.
That's interesting.
I'm superstitious, but not like music. You're saying like if you hear a song, like bad shit's gonna happen to me if I complete this song. I gotta change the channel. That's interesting.
That is interesting.
That's interesting. I
have bad vibe songs, but I never considered.
Do you know what Colleen, and she was the friend that was driving us home from this rave that we were talking about earlier, she would only...
2 miles an hour.
Yeah, 2 miles an hour. Bless
No.
her heart for getting us all home safe.
Seriously.
She would have like this thing where she would not turn off her car at a certain point in the song. Like she would have to wait until there was like, even if we were like getting to school and we were running late or whatever, because she would drive me and Jerry both, she drove us to school every day for like a year.
Yeah. She'd be out there honking. I'd be in my bed asleep.
Sleeping. I'm calling his mom like, Debbie, can you please wake Jerry up? We're running late. But she would like stop the car and she would wait to turn it off until like the song came to like a break, because she felt like it was bad luck to just like cut a song off at a certain spot. And I don't know if she's still like that, but the last time
I could see her still being like that.
I would say the last time I talked to her, she was. So I mean, that was a couple years ago, but yeah. And she used to drive me everywhere because I didn't have a license for the longest time.
You guys didn't go very fast. Didn't get very far, huh?
I mean,
2.5 miles an hour.
That was just that one time.
Normally, she was a pretty fast driver.
Top speed 4.5, 5.
Yeah.
Good day.
Yeah.
Worst concert experience, national act.
Notice he said experience.
And why?
I know.
Notice he said
And, well,
experience.
Do you know
I
what I'm
did,
gonna
I
say?
did.
I think I looked at Jerry.
How
I'm
about
like,
performance?
how many
'Cause
concerts did Jerry ruin
I
for
think
me while we were
that's
drunk?
more interesting.
It probably
Worst concert
is.
experience
If you're
is gonna be
comfortable,
No,
I'm
much
gonna-
more
I've got a good one on that
interesting.
one. I'll give you.
Okay, worst
I'll give
concert
you
experience.
The reason we stopped drinking Mad Dog.
How long did it take you to figure that one out?
do you really need a reason?
I know, right? But should you ever have been drinking it in the first place?
Exactly.
Is really the
God
question.
damn, that's foul
we were
stuff.
super young. We were like, I don't even know if we were 21 yet. Maybe 21, maybe about 21,
Oh.
maybe 19, maybe 20. Who knows? But we went to see Tool in Ohio
Okay.
with like 3 or 4 of our friends, and I don't know if this is the worst ever, but this is memorable for sure.
It was pretty bad.
And I had never seen Tool, and like literally to this day, the first time I saw Tool as an adult was just this past year or the year before, whenever they toured for their most recent album, because like
Did no one like it?
I liked it. But anyway, so we get there and we had been drinking the whole way there, and we go in, and like Jerry and I were like so classic for this. We would just go out with our friends and fight. Just get
We would
rid-
invite people over and get into, hey, you guys want to come over and hang out? We'd get really drunk and have knockdown, drag out, like
Yeah.
terrible. The one guy was like
Like
I've
married
never seen,
fights
I've
before we
never
were
seen
married.
anyone but my parents fight like you guys.
like traumatized our
How can they
friends.
say these things to each other?
Why did I know you then?
So many people have said that, but trust me, we only have like 2 friends left from that time period. That tells you anything.
That's their fault.
Maybe. But so we drank the whole way there. I don't even remember who was driving. Maybe Paul?
Brian?
Brian? I don't know. Anyway.
I don't even remember who was there. I was fucking hammered.
I feel like there was like 6 of us. Maybe we were in a minivan. I don't know.
Maybe.
I think we were in Brian's Jeep.
Maybe
Because
that
I'd
sounds
reached
right.
out and tried to crash
Because
it.
it was like Brian, Paul, Eric, and
Rossi? Is Jeff there?
No.
It doesn't matter. It's not important.
either
to the
way,
story.
you don't know any of these people anyway. So the point is that we get there and we are shit-faced drunk, and like somehow halfway there, Jerry and I probably started fighting. We're fighting like from leaving the car to the arena. He like kind of like shoos everybody away from us because we're all sick of being in the car with each other. Mostly them probably being sick of being in the car from us.
Right.
And we all had seats together, so we're like, we've all got our tickets. We're like, yeah, we'll catch up with you later. We make it like into the arena. We go do a loop. Can't get into our seats because we're still fighting with each other. And Jerry like demands that we leave. Like he's like, I don't know. Remember you? I think you were saying he was singing his own songs, like walking down the street in Ohio.
I was sitting out in front of the arena, drunk as piss, basically in the gutter, singing my shit. People would walk past, you suck.
I convinced our friends not to choke him out that night because their solution was they were gonna like asphyxiate him until he passed out.
Like do a chokehold. Wait, you convinced them? I thought I convinced them by biting a big hole in Eric's arm.
I mean,
That was
okay,
pretty
so
convincing.
I was trying to convince them not to, but Jerry convinced them to pull over. So their idea
I
was
convinced
that,
them to pull over by trying to grab the wheel and crash the Jeep.
so they do pull over. They like chase him down a hill because he like peels out of the fucking car like in a drunken rant, just like running. I'm screaming at them.
We were in Ohio, by the way. We weren't down the fucking street.
No, we had gotten back.
We went to Columbus,
we were,
Ohio
Yeah,
to
we
see
were
the
like
show.
far away.
Yeah.
And then so like I'm like trying to talk them out of choking them. Like we're out of the car. They've like got him.
They're like, no, we'll just
They've
put him
got
in a
him
sleeper
pinned.
hold. He'll go unconscious.
It
We
took
could drive home in peace.
3 of them to subdue him. So there's 3 guys like literally like holding him down because he's just like spitting and screaming and like
Full
obscenities.
on psychiatric ward freak out.
And
Did you see the show?
no. No, this is the point that I'm making.
So
is
it
that
wasn't the show. It was
no,
more,
it was that it was. The
I am
experience.
telling you guys as future kids these stories, by the way. I'm making all these
they're gonna
mental
have it right
notes.
here.
Yeah.
I know, we're documenting this so
I
that
know.
someday, whenever like we're trying to convince them to not drink so much, this is the stuff
They're not even born yet, and we're terrified of these children.
terrified. But so they like finally like agree that maybe they won't choke him, and while they're like having this discussion, he bites a hole in one of his friend's hand.
He hit his arm like an arm bar up around here.
Bite somebody. You bit him?
Yeah, bit him.
I bit him good,
hard.
real good.
Bit him good. He's so
They were
proud of
strangling
himself.
me to death.
They
I was
were.
fucking. I mean, I deserved it, but still, I was like,
What are you, half cocker
I
spaniel?
don't even think it was self-defense. I think I was just like, I'll show you. You think you're clever?
So he convinces us to leave him at a gas station so his parents can pick him up. This is, mind you, before GPS. His parents had to just basically find a gas station in the middle of Ohio. He refused to let us stay there. I went home. It
No,
funny.
I was like, fuck you.
Yeah,
Get
he
outta here.
basically like made
I was
us
in
all leave
Ohio.
him.
I was like, leave me. Get
Yeah.
away from me.
Yeah, he made us all leave him in a gas station in Ohio. I remember so one of our only friends is Jerry's bassist from that time period
This
that we're
story is
still
brought
friends
to you
with.
by non-alcoholic beer.
And I remember like Paul crashing at the house that night, like sleeping on the
man.
couch and just being like, "Do you think Jerry's okay?" And I was
Did Jerry ever made it home from Ohio?
like, "I don't know, Paul. Like, I hope so."
Bless my parents' heart.
I know. And like the next day, I feel like he called me and we worked it out.
After he bit a hole in someone's arm and got left in another state.
Yeah, something like that.
I get the best though is I just come out of the concert. I'm just like sitting on the sidewalk singing my own songs.
You suck.
No, he was getting like, like no love from the fans
You
that
can't make
night.
that up. You can't make that up.
Maybe that's not like my worst concert experience, but that goes up there. 'Cause
Oh,
I
shit.
really wanted to see that show.
I
was
think you
like,
told yours and mine.
Oh my god, that's so good. That is so good. That's so wrong.
oh man,
You?
I think that was it.
that was a pretty bad
You
night.
bit somebody.
I think
He,
that was
he
it.
really had to apologize for that one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think
There
of
was a
one that was worse
conspiracy
than
to
that.
choke you out that night. That's all.
That's right. It
Might
was,
have
no,
been.
I'll tell you what happened. I got it convinced in my head that someone stole my mad dog. Well, it turned out later, like
You are choosing my mad dog. Especially lost mad dog.
no, the worst with me was when I'd had to sober up. When I was already drunk and I
Yeah.
couldn't just get to the point where I'd pass out. So I drank all the Mad Dog, and I was convinced. I think I just convinced myself of it because I was pissed off and wanted to be mad at somebody. I
Oh my god.
was like, "You drank my fucking Mad Dog, didn't you?" So I think you probably told yours and mine.
You
Think
suck.
so?
That's so fucking
I
good,
still,
though.
I was really drunk, but I still remember that. I was like, that stung, that hurt. I'm in a low point right now. I didn't need that.
Oh my god.
That is so wrong.
I'm not
That
even
is
kidding.
so fucking wrong.
I'm not even saying that to be funny.
That's so good. That's
I-
just so wrong.
I think she told mine as well.
Because our friends literally we've spent money on these tickets and
Oh,
drove
quite a
all
bit.
the way to Columbus.
Yeah.
We had good seats.
Toll's
too.
not cheap, dude.
No, like
Yeah.
and even
Yeah.
back
I
then they
literally
weren't
heard
cheap.
like a song and a half, and I was like, there, I saw him, and fucking walked out.
Yeah, he was like saying "fuck you" to me.
Poor Maynard. What did he do?
He's scarred to this day.
Yeah. So
You?
that happened.
Well,
Can you top that?
mine pales in comparison to yours.
I'm crying over here.
That was a good way to go because you don't have to talk shit on any band.
No,
You know
I
what I
thought
mean?
so.
Right.
I touched on you.
You were like, it was just our night.
And that van
It
did
was our
anyways.
night in
Oh,
Ohio.
no, that was the worst performance that night.
So in a way, I still kind of like,
Oh shit.
oh my god.
You gotta top that.
I like I said, mine pales in comparison. But I think mine probably was, and we've talked about this, is Manson that one night because
Oh,
I
yeah,
was so
Yeah,
Ozfest Manson 2002.
he was
Yeah.
not good.
yeah, he
Sucked
was
bad.
so
He came out on
drunk.
stilts, like barely stayed on top of them. I can't believe he didn't
Yeah.
fall off.
That's the one you went to Slayer the next day.
No, that was Blink
Oh,
182,
okay.
and then I went to Slayer the next day, and
Also, not the best concert
Right.
experience for you.
right.
Were they playing? Was this Slayer show in the middle of the day?
It was still daylight out. I remember that. And probably, and it was hot. It had to, I think
Yeah.
it was like July
July.
or something. And they were outdoors at Stage AE. So, But yeah, Manson, that was at Star Lake, and it wasn't like I was like mad, like, because a lot of people were mad. There were people walking
Really?
out.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't mad. I'm not mad at you, Manson. I'm just disappointed in you, Manson. And then
I was equally mad and disappointed.
And then I did see at Stage AE indoors one time, I saw Kid Cudi, and I was just like so excited to see him too, because I never thought I'd really see him again, and it was just not a good show.
Disappointing. You pay that
Very
money,
disappointing.
You look forward to something, and you go out there and they just shit the bed. It's terrible.
Yeah. But
I've heard performances, like live performances, that like I was glad I wasn't there. You know what I mean? From bands, and I'm not going to talk shit.
Oh, like a bootleg?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or like they'll play it on the radio sometimes, you know what I mean? Like they'll like, promote a concert and they'll be like, oh, and we filmed it live or whatever, and they'll play clips or whatever, they'll play a few songs. And I'm like, man, I'm glad I wasn't there.
you know what I've seen in this moment every single time they've come, and the one time that I didn't see them, they were at the Rex, and I was really upset because I thought it was going to be at this cool small venue, and everybody said it was
Not a good performance.
Yeah, it was one that I like kind of dodged a bullet because
It's usually when one of the band members is inebriated.
Or the entire band.
Yeah.
And I mean, people have bad days and people have bad shit. I would have to say the thing that I feel lucky about is that most of the time it's the other way. There's a lot of times where I will see a band multiple times. If they come every year and I'm really a big fan, I'll go all the time. And, sometimes that show is the same.
Yeah.
And then every once in a while they'll pull out something and I'm really pleasantly surprised. So I would have to say more often than not, it's the other way.
Right.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a lot of bad shows. I'm not proud of this moment, but I actually went to a Thompson Twins concert one time.
Oh,
You know
yeah?
who the Thompson Twins are?
No.
Yeah.
Well, you're not missing anything.
I remember
It's like an
them.
early 80s kind of like pop, like English pop band. They
Okay,
had like
maybe
two
this
songs.
sounds a little
Hold
familiar.
Me Now was one of the songs, and it was just real poppy, and early MTV. And the night before, I had gone and seen, some metal show, and I had to take the next night my girlfriend and her little sister to this show. It was fucking bad. I mean, they were lip syncing, and it was all synthesizers, and it was just at the Stanley Theater, and like 10 people were there. It just was just complete waste of time. I saw Joe Walsh of the Eagles solo in 1989 with like 80 people in the Siri Mosque basement, and he was completely freaking inebriated. Completely. 22-minute, 28-minute show. He babbled on. He's like this. It was unbelievable. Like, I wanted my money back. Like, you gotta be shitting me. Me and the other 78 people want our money back.
Yeah.
We want those
We
minutes
want
of
our
our
money.
lives back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, pop bands usually, if I had to be forced to go to a pop concert, they usually were all shitty. The one rock show that actually was very disappointing was I saw a Rat in '85 when they hit it big, right? And Bon Jovi was the opening act, and they were just this young band out of New Jersey. And a Rat, I waited so long to see this. It was going to be so cool. They had the song Round and Round. It was the Invasion of Your Privacy tour. It was like big show. They were just fucking bad. Like, they just weren't playing together. But Bon Jovi, we knew a little bit about. They had one 7800 Fahrenheit was the album before the big one, and they were just on the cusp. And Bon Jovi was in this like denim jacket with these high like cowboy boots, and he's on the top of this riser and jumps over the drum kit in like the opening act. And I'm like, these fucking guys are, I mean, not my kind of music, really, not heavy enough, but man, I'm like, these guys are like they're gonna go somewhere. That band, I don't know who they are. They're going to be somebody. And the next year, boom, it just blew up for them. But Rat went the other direction. Rat went
I
the
like
other
Bon Jovi.
direction.
I don't care who knows it.
Yeah, Rat went their direction.
I like
which is-
Bon Jovi.
Me
But
too.
man, it was. I knew that was the real effort.
Living on a
deal.
prayer.
If you're telling me you listen to Living on a Prayer and you don't feel something, you're a goddamn liar.
We both like.
I mean, it was always on the radio. I mean, that's all DV
Yeah, they probably
had.
did you to death with it.
pure.
Yeah.
It was so. Yeah, I mean, I lived that shit.
Yeah.
Like as an adult.
That makes sense.
A young adult. Like enough
I feel like
already.
when you're
Dead
a
or
kid,
Alive? Come on, that's a great song.
Yeah. I feel
His
like
face is.
I feel like the other thing too is like when you're a kid, you have such a high tolerance for repetitive like things. Like you just want to watch your same show or listen to the same song over and over again, watch the same movie. My parents used to fast forward Wizard of Oz on me. Because I wanted to watch it every day.
That's so
like,
cruel.
I know.
Yeah, but if you'd sat through it day after day after day,
I
is that not cruel,
I would
Eric?
say it was probably what I did that was probably more cruel.
Yeah.
And then it went on to like Beetlejuice. I watched that every day for a while. Like,
Dude, I had to raise a kid in the Barney era.
oh God,
Trust me,
bless your
yeah.
heart. All my cousins were into it, but I was like just old enough that I missed it.
Bear in the big,
and I got
big
to make
blue
fun of all
house.
of them.
Even
That
I
was my
hated
daughter.
Barney
yeah,
as a kid.
I made fun of everybody that liked Barney.
I love you.
Yeah, I even made fun of that as a
Yeah.
kid when I was young enough that I should have liked it.
Yeah, Sesame Street was much more.
What about
work.
Teletubbies?
Oh, that's
That
weird.
shit
They scared the
was
shit out of me.
weird
That was
shit.
like,
Creepy.
I swear there was some kind of weird psychological.
Yeah, they were
thing.
trying to do something.
That's what screwed a lot of kids up.
I
Did you ever
think so,
see it?
too. Yeah,
I
they're
swear
weird.
they were like
They
licking
had
each
little
other's
like antennas
butts and
coming
stuff.
out. Yeah, I just feel like it was strange.
Yeah, very psychologically damaging show.
oh my God.
Like I feel like I was being exposed to like some kind of hypno, and I'm
Yeah.
looking around and be like, "This is not okay."
So clearly you missed Mork and Mindy and you missed New Zoom Review.
I used to
and all
watch
this
Nick
shit.
at Night.
Now I remember like Mork and Mindy would come on like when I was headed to school.
I used to
feel
love
like.
Nick at Night.
Even,
Yeah.
I mean, when that shit came out, and I was probably from like 10 years old to 15, when that stuff was like on the regular TV, that was a show once a week.
Yeah.
Even then, I knew that is some fucking rubbish. I mean, that is garbage. That is who would listen to that? But that, yeah, I mean, like you. Come on, really? There's my mom and dad just sitting there watching this shit. I'm like, this guy. I mean, it's like they're pretending he's a space alien. Like you're okay with this. I mean, my dad will be watching Barney Miller like later. You know, his police drama. So you know, it's like, where do you like in your head rectify Mork and Mindy? You know, Barney Miller.
What about like Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie?
Well, I will say.
Because they were both beautiful. Like Samantha was beautiful, and so was what was her name?
One was sophisticated looking and attractive, and the other one was just like
Because she was wearing that little genie
the
outfit.
genie. Yeah. Who was the genie chick? Who was that?
I don't even remember what her name was.
don't
I just remember
either.
the show.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
to
one,
like an 10-year-old kid, that was all right. Yeah, but
'Cause
the
I
whole,
mean-
I'd rather have the one shaking her body instead of like shaking her nose, right? The one was the Bewitched was like she would.
well, she was like a family woman too. You know, I Dream of Jeannie is the chick that's in the bottle that's just there whenever you want her.
That was a great premise for a show. Yeah, that was.
Right.
I mean, I was
think most
glad.
guys would
I mean,
say
that was totally the problem
you could
with
definitely see a bit of like the male chauvinist like kind of
she was
idea,
the
but-
gimp. Like
Yeah.
she was like tucked away.
That got dark. You went all Teletubby with it.
that. Supposedly so. Oh, I don't know where to go with that one.
We have left the main road. We're somewhere off in left field.
We're in the country road right now.
We're in
We'll
the
wind our
weeds.
way back. We'll
Yeah.
wind our way back. Yeah, so I had all these pre-written or ideas we shared before the show. Now I'm just like totally lost. I don't know how we talked about Teletubbies.
Pop culture.
I guess we should get a little bit serious. I guess we should have a little bit of serious content in this show.
Current events.
Maybe. Yeah, so it's we usually don't date these shows, but we're going to generally. It is the mid-month of January. We're still in the pandemic.
2021, we made it.
2021. Yes, we're here.
Second year of the simulation.
Simulation 2.1.
That's
Yes.
a big rabbit hole there. Before we can go there, I do want to find out from all of you though, are we any closer right now to getting through the pandemic or seeing a light at the end of the tunnel? Are there more people that are believing that it's real? Are we acting more responsible? What's your opinion of the state of the pandemic at the moment? I'm coming right to you.
Hot
Miss,
takes.
4 or 5 weeks we should be.
I know, right? I told Eric.
I wish you'd had that
Famous-
clip ready.
I know.
4 or
I
5
Famous
saw that.
last
Don't worry.
words.
4 or 5 weeks will be good.
I know. What was it? Last like May. I was like, yeah, or no, it was last April, and I was like, yeah, but I'm thinking by like May.
Yeah,
June.
start of summer. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Well, we
In
played-
your defense, didn't we all
I think so.
think?
What was it? Was it with curve? What is it?
I never would
Yeah.
have believed this.
We have flattened the curve by now.
Flatten the curve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it? 14 days to flatten the curve, weren't
Yeah.
they saying?
The problem was they put men in charge of that. Had the women been in charge of doing all that, we would be past this pandemic. You tell a man that he's in charge of flattening the curve. There's no man who wants to flatten the curve.
Men
Don't.
like curves.
It's not what we are. It's not in what we are.
I mean, don't we all really?
I don't know. Whatever. I'm just saying.
Oh God, I feel like because I'm in healthcare and I'm kind of like watching the sort of ebbs and flows of all this, and I'm surrounded by people that have been taking it very seriously the whole time. Do I think we're like? I do think, and it's a loaded topic because obviously the vaccine's rolling out, and I think that the science behind the vaccine that is currently on the market is very exciting. I do feel that it's if you say you think it was rushed, there's gonna be a million people that are pro-vaccine that are gonna come at you and say, well, da 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 da, and
You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Right.
and again, I mean, like, it's a very personal decision whether or not you want to get it. I don't think that the fact that everyone wants to post pictures of themselves getting it is fine. I mean,
It's like people that vote.
yeah, that's just it too.
I
is
voted today.
Again, like, I feel like it's kind of like this
Awesome.
whole idea of like, everyone wants to be on the right side of history, and if you question any aspect of the standard narrative on what's out there right now, it can look really, really bad. And like, and it's funny because everyone wants to be politically correct, like, I'm gonna bet that I'm the only person that hasn't gotten the vaccine in my department, and like, and they asked me, because I'm in healthcare, and they give you a survey as to whether or not you want the vaccine and why you don't want it, and I just listed personal, and so I'm not going to get like super into it, but I do feel like the fact that so many people either have already been infected or are getting the vaccine, which the vaccine does show some promise, I think it's definitely going to move us towards herd immunity faster. I do feel like it's the thing that's concerning to me is that, there are different strains that are kind of like coming out. And so we have a vaccine that's based on a very new technology. Is there going to be any, guarantee that this is going to be the, the be all end all for every strain that's going to come down the pike now? Maybe, maybe not. And how is the media going to present this information? I feel like these are all concerns that I have, because whether or not we actually get to a point that things, like someone was saying, I think it was, maybe it was on Rogan, or maybe it was on another podcast I was listening to, maybe it was on one of your podcasts, but they were saying, no, it was, I can't remember who it was, but they were saying, what California is dealing right now, I mean, they're in the thick of a really horrible situation. I mean, like, they're making decisions whether or not people live or die. There's so many people there, like, they literally are like stacked on top of each other, even if, like, the per capita, like, population density is so different from here that, like, you can't try and explain to someone in rural Pennsylvania what is happening in California or what happened in New York and expect them to have the same kind of empathy.
Right.
But again, I don't think it means, the other part of that is that I don't necessarily know that it means that the same solutions in those areas are what makes sense for here. Yeah. And there's an economical, impact of everything. And if you even bring up the economy, then you're just an asshole. And it's like, I feel like, well, there are people that are literally like, not able to pay their bills and losing their homes. And like, do those people not count? And they are people that are living in areas that maybe aren't as affected by the virus. And so they're wondering, like, why is my livelihood being destroyed by something that I don't have a direct personal connection to? Right. And so I feel like everyone's having a really different experience of this pandemic. And so it's like, and unfortunately, like, my experience, I'm not going to say it's unfortunate, because I feel very fortunate that everyone that I know personally that has gotten it has recovered, has not had a serious case. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I don't personally know anyone that's died.
Right.
Not anyone that was, but I know people that have died from it. And I've been covering COVID units in the hospital that I work in. I don't have to make direct contact with my patients. Like, I can do most of what I do over the phone. So, like, I'm in, like, a low risk profession. But so, I mean, I definitely think it's real. Like, I watched our units totally blow up in November, and they're pretty well under control now. So, I mean, like, you know, I think that, you know, the cases are, for whatever reason here, seem to be going down from what I'm seeing. I'm not watching the news anymore, though, to be honest with you, because it's just getting to the point for me where I just don't feel like I trust anything that's being told to me in the news.
Keep that thought, because we're going to swing back around and ask that question.
Okay, all right.
Because I think that may be dangerous.
And so I feel like it's really hard for anybody to form like a true and valid opinion on any of this, because I don't feel like we're getting reliable data. I feel like a lot of the data is skewed. And so I have compassion for people that are going through like really, you know, I feel compassion for the people that are like ER nurses in the worst parts of this. I feel compassion for people that are losing their business over this. So I feel like it's everyone's on, you know, it shouldn't be this like polarizing discussion. I think it should be something that we're looking at from a holistic standpoint of like, you know, what are the best solutions that we can come up with based on the current situation to, you know, create sustainable solutions for people, because what we're doing right now, it really isn't sustainable. That's where I'm at.
Jerry?
I'll just pick up right where you left off. Not only is it not sustainable, it's not working. It's not working. Well, that's because people aren't doing what they... Well, there you go. And you know what? They're not going to. You know what I mean? You cannot, like, unless you want to turn this into a prison society...
It's America.
Where they can literally, like, someone was telling me in other countries, they were following you around with drones, with a lockdown and stuff like that, you know?
Coming into your homes and, like, literally, like... telling people they have to leave, like, or like arresting people for having more than 10 people in their house or something.
Just
like,
want some turkey, man.
In California, they were talking about, well, we're going to turn off the utilities to houses. And some people are like, well, that's totally justified because they're not behind the solution, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, at what point do we stop that? You know what I mean? Like, okay, what do? Do you throw somebody in jail? Like, let's start throwing it out there with people who are feel really strongly about mitigating efforts. You know what I mean? Some of them, you say, oh, I think we should put someone in jail for 7 years if they're caught not social distancing and things like that. And we should also make it so that it's basically a felony charge and they won't be able to work. Guarantee, you and me, we look at each other like, isn't that crazy? You know what I mean? Like the idea that you would do that to somebody just because they're like, I don't agree with this and I don't think it's working and I'm not going to throw my life away on the off chance that this makes things a little bit better. Look around. Like, we've been doing this for a year now. We are in the middle of a full-blown freaking pandemic, and what we've done didn't work.
Right.
We can admit that. You know what I mean? Like, however you feel about it and whyever you feel it didn't work.
But see, Americans don't want to admit
we're
wrong ever.
Sure.
We you know, we'll talk about that too. And
Sure.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, that's fine. You're absolutely
the point
right.
is so straight.
Yeah.
We don't. Our government doesn't want to admit they made a mistake.
Yep.
The incoming government doesn't want to admit that they're not saying the right thing because they might not be.
Yeah.
Don't know.
And what really shuts the conversation down is that people who are dead set, and I think you can probably tell I'm to the point where I'm like, you know, let us live our lives here. But like, I also had to take a look at the fact where I'm like, what about people who lost someone? I'm really careful about. I wasn't real careful about what I said on social media for a while. And I started to think about it, and I was like, well, what if your dad or your mom or somebody you loved passed away from COVID? And it would be like, okay, maybe it would totally change my whole idea on that. I would say, well, maybe we should stay locked down. Maybe I can give concerts up. Maybe we don't need to fly in airplanes anymore. Maybe there's a new normal where we just don't stay within close proximity to each other because we're terrified of a virus that could possibly kill a small percentage of us.
Yeah.
Maybe I would change my mind.
The numbers don't jive.
But maybe I would change my... You know what I mean? Like, I didn't lose... For me, I have to look at the fact... It would be different if I lost someone close to me and I was still standing here saying, look, we got to live our lives. But for me, I didn't lose anyone close to me. And so, like, I had to take a look at the fact that you're being awfully loud about, hey, we can't live in fear. I put out a post the very first week this happened. I was down in I was working a nuclear power plant outage. She, bless her heart, dealt with this whole thing all by herself up here. I wasn't with her. She was like, things are getting really scary up here. You're allowed to leave? And I'm like, well, I'm working at a nuclear power plant and they can't just shut it back You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
you can't just be like, well, we're going to finish this next year. You know what I mean? Like, there's spent fuel rods. Like, this has to happen, and I can't bail on this, you know?
Right.
But I remember putting something out, and I was like, do not believe in the fear campaign. You know what I mean? Don't give up your choice out of fear. Like, don't let someone tell you that you have to shut your whole life down.
You don't feel that way anymore?
I think I have a more broad perspective now. I think the big problem now is, I'm not afraid to say how I feel, but I think the big problem is, I feel the way I feel, you feel the way you feel. Maybe we all feel similarly, but I think the problem is that people who are like, look, people are dying. We have a global pandemic. You people who are sensitive about, you know, your personal freedoms, you're not allowed to get your hair done, you're not allowed to go to the bar and shit. Like, you're coming off as really petty and selfish, you know what I mean? And then there's people who are of the other mind that say, hey, you know, people are losing their businesses. They're worried they're not going to be able to take care of their children. Their unemployment is running out. Like, if you were a single mother and you had 2-3 kids to look after and you were told you're literally not permitted to go out there and work and provide for your children because some people who are immunocompromised or, you know, of advanced years are at risk for dying, I would have to say, I'd be like, I'm taking care of my fucking children. You know what I mean? Like, I'm looking out for my family, and I'm sorry that you're at advanced risk, but you need to stay your ass home. I got kids I got to look out for. I have a responsibility. I got people at home that I love, and they're suffering, and their livelihoods, you know, their futures are dwindling because I have a skill, and in this current climate, I'm told I'm not allowed to work. You're not allowed to go and provide for your children. So there's two very different sides, and the problem is neither side is listening to the other. People who feel, don't hear that at all. It's almost like if I give you an inch, you're going to totally knock down my argument, and it's the same way. And I had to take a look at the fact that I was being kind of callous and just being like, well, people die. You know what I mean? Like, people die of the flu. People die all the time. But what if it was me who died? You know, like, I'm scared of dying. Like, my own mortality frightens me. I think it's easy to distance myself. And I think it's easy for one to distance oneself from the reality of either side, depending on how you feel. You know what I mean? The reality of being, you know, responsible for your family's well-being and being terrified because you don't know if you're going to be able to provide for them. Just straight up knowing, like, my kids are not going to have the future that they could have had because I lost my business. Oh, it's easy to look at, you know, money when you don't have to worry about people dying. But it's like, when you're responsible for other people's well-being, for their welfare, for their future, are you just going to say, it's okay? It's okay. My kids may not go to college. It's okay. My kids, they might not have much of a future. Like, we might slide into poverty. My kids might have a really messed up future when they had a bright future ahead of them. I'm just supposed to accept that because some people are at advanced risk for a serious case and they could die. Like, none of it's okay. And regardless of how we feel, I think it's important not to marginalize either side.
Well, that's just kindness.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
but
that's just kindness.
The more, and you alluded to it a little bit, you know, the more polarized we get and divided we get, the less kind we get. Like, when did we get from the point where I might kind of poke fun at you and disagree with you, and maybe even like look down on you a little bit, you know, if I'm that kind of person. But how did we go from that to I literally hate you with a burning passion because we feel differently about certain issues that are going on? How did that happen? You know?
Yeah, I mean,
that pregnant pause in a second.
yeah,
That was such a good
taking
phrase.
a minute.
Pregnant pause. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
Pregnate it.
yeah, I mean, I would have to agree there with, you know, everybody's experiencing this differently. And I think we have to not only take care of our own experience, but we have to definitely take care of our fellow people and their experience. I do know people that have lost parents during this, and I do think the vaccine gives me hope because I do think whoever needs it, wants it, will get it. And then that will make a huge difference. Do I think everybody should be mandated to have it? No. I think, it's still a little too new. And like Julia was saying, it's amazing technology, but it's very new. And I can understand why somebody wouldn't feel comfortable getting vaccinated. But I also think the vaccine is going to help so much with people feeling safe. Like I said, it gives me a little bit more hope, because I think especially now, like, being at this point of 2021, we're in January and we've been going through this for a while, and we have been blessed that we live in a country where we're not used to this. There's that's something that we can look at and actually be grateful for, that we're actually having a hard time with all of this because we're not used to ever having to deal with this. I laugh about it, but this is a very true statement. During like the quarantine and during all of this, you can tell there's some people that have never been told no before ever in their whole life, and it shows for sure.
That's a good point.
At the same time, you still you see people suffering because they're either losing people. I do feel like those numbers can be kind of inflated, but there are people that are losing people. And not only that, but there are people that are going through having this virus and they're having some lasting physical effects. It's not just death. So I think we really concentrate on like how many are the death tolls true, and that's not always what the concern is.
Right.
Plus, like Jerry was saying, it's just, to see people lose their livelihoods and their family business, and how are they going to provide? And, it's gotten to the point where people can't put food on the table, or they're looking into the future of not being able to put food on the table for their kids. So when we're looking at that, I think we really do have to look to the other person and understand what their experience is, and understand that we have to somehow come to a middle ground. Like I said, I think at this point we're definitely going through some like COVID fatigue. It's just been going on so long. We had to make hard decisions during the holidays and things like that. But I definitely feel like the vaccine gives me hope, because it's kind of to the point, like, when it is available to all of the public, or when it goes through the waves, and it's kind of like, enter at your own risk. I don't see why everything shouldn't be open back up at that point, or because the whole, I feel like both sides of the argument, if you're extremely on both sides and they say, if you don't want to wear a mask, stay home, or if you're scared of the virus, stay home. We just can't stay home. That's not realistic. Right. Nobody can stay home. We have to work. We have to eat. We have to bank. We have to live. We have to live. We have to do all those things. And as much as people are trying to be careful and stay home, there are things that, if they're really afraid of getting the virus, or if they really are immune compromised or older, they're not going to be in their house forever. It's just not realistic. It's just not. So,
plus we're social creatures. Everyone looks at the economy, and it's just important. Believe me, I was telling you before the show, Eric. Our industry, my day job, we got hit hard. We did. We got guys laid off. And, but we're, in addition to that, which is not to be overlooked, we're social creatures. Right. We got suicide rates that are through the roof. And see, here's and kind of what
doesn't get talked about enough.
Kind of what I was alluding to before, though, because like I'm picturing someone listening to this and be like, see, he presented it like he was moderate, but now he's going to sneak around the back door and start throwing all the statistics in there.
It's a shame
to hint towards him
like
being
there'll be people like that,
anti-mask, anti-vax, but
right.
And I think that what I'm trying to do is get at what I feel the real problem is that you can talk about one side of it, you can talk about the other side of it, but eventually someone's looking at you going, well, you need to land on one side or the other so I can figure out how I feel about you.
So they can label
and
you.
so I can figure out how I feel about every other thing you're saying. And then based on one thing you say,
they invalidate the rest of it.
It colors everything.
Absolutely.
And that's what I mean. And that's everything. In this country right now is you're either A or B. Wait, before I give any credibility to what you're saying, you might be about to make me look stupid.
I reject that.
I need to figure out which team you're on.
I reject
Wait, are you on A team or are you on B team? Because you're saying a few things that make sense, but as soon as I agree with you and I realize you're on B team, I'm going to be infuriated with myself and you.
Or even listening to you.
I'm not even in the stadium, man. I'm not on one of those teams. I'm not in the stadium. I think the biggest problem is there's no pragmatic thought in this country. We learned, just indulge me for a second. We learned how to speak and how to think, and we learned how to think pragmatically as a kid. We learned how to reason. We learned how to look at circumstances and realize different possibilities and try to compare possibilities in our head so we can formulate a decision to move forward. We learned this skill as a child, but we are not employing the basic concepts of critical thinking. And I'm sorry, I am not living my life that way. I cannot label someone or listen to a portion of what this person believes in a soundbite and then immediately label that person one way or the other, or a third way, or even a fourth way. I don't care about a soundbite. I don't know. I have not had enough information about what you really believe. Believe it or not, even when we've talked, I still don't have enough information to really formulate an opinion of which side of the fence you are on, or even if you're in the field. See, that's how I go through my life. And it's hard now because everybody wants to label everybody. And yes, the two easy ones, Democrat, Republican, right? Or now you have COVID believers and COVID non-believers.
Yeah, maskers and non-maskers.
Maskers, non-maskers. Everybody wants to label somebody and, like you said, color your belief of that person. Mm-hmm. Either I'm just indifferent or I just can't do that. Life is too complex. This is a big fucking world, man. Like, I mean, just, I can't. When I go to do a real estate deal, there is multiple steps to the process. From the moment I meet that client, and there's just so many steps to the closing table. I can't take a simplistic approach to every part of that. I can't label my customer this way the first time I meet them, and in my head say they're going to buy that house, and they're going to take this lender, and they're going to have this inspection company and this closing agent, like day one. But if I applied the logic that we all use to maneuver our life, that's what I would do in my job. Now, that's insanity. It's stupid. You can't be a realtor that way. You can't be a functioning person that way, in my opinion, but yet we do it. Yet we are so quick to I don't understand why we can't take a breath and say, hey, that's an interesting idea. What about this idea? And then hear what they have to say. Don't just say, oh, that's an interesting idea. I'm with you. Or that's a horrible idea. I don't like you. That's insane. That to me is the most infantile way of conducting a human experience that I could possibly imagine. And I'm not denigrating people, but I kind of am, because they're fucking idiots. You can't maneuver your life making assumptions about people and then acting accordingly based upon an assumption of a belief, especially when you have no information to go by, a sound bite. I can't live that way.
Well, it's like
and I refuse to live that way.
They started talking about like identity politics, and I think that's part of like the problem that we're running into now is that it's like, if you subscribe to like this, this belief, and that means all these other beliefs have to fall in line with that first belief, because if you believe A, then that means you believe like B, C, D, and E, and
right.
F, G,
which is insane.
But like, I feel like people don't really actually operate that way. Like the average person might have like a whole myriad of things because of their life experience. Like just because
probably all do.
That's just it. Is it's like
we don't get evaluated on that though.
And I don't think that like the current like model really gives room for that kind of like nuance, because it's unfortunate that like you're not looking at a person's whole experience. Like, I might be like super liberal on this thing and super conservative on that thing just because of like my own personal path on like how I was like on how I went through life because of an experience I had or whatever. And like, you can't tell that just by looking at me. You don't know me. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know why I value like this particular belief set in this area of my life and this particular belief set in this area of my life. Like, and for any of us to look at another person and think that like we have them figured out based on how they answered one question or like how they voted on one election or whatever, it all seems so like black and white, and it's
but
unfair.
If their thinking is that obtuse, it's just easier for them to like box people in and actually think complexly about it. And like I said before earlier, I was saying like, you know, squeaky wheels get the grease. So a lot of times I think we're hearing that too. We're hearing extreme
on both
sides of both, and really I think most of the time there are very logical middle ground people that can take
what sort of bulk of society's at.
Yeah, but we're not. I think we're not hearing that as much.
They have no voice. Well, it's not sexy. It's not sexy for the media to be a critical thinker. It's not sexy. The moderation or moderate viewpoints do not sell print, press, tabloid, nothing. They just don't. And that's where the average people in this country who are pragmatic and realize, hey, I believe this. Republicans believe this. I kind of dig that, but I don't like that. I'm more in line with this. And you don't dwell on it. You just make an assumption based upon what you hear, and you just go on through your day. We're all working and doing our jobs and doing our lives. We're not political pundits, but those who are calling the shots want to label us on little hair trigger beliefs or comments, and then just put us in the boxes and then sell us certain things and count on our votes. And it's nuts. Humans are smarter than we give each other credit for, because we're labeling each other with no information or very limited information. When I was a kid, politics was like the thing that happened once every 4 years, and there was maybe a council election or something, and no one wore their political party affiliation as a badge of honor. No one cared. And I grew up in an all-Democratic town. I still wouldn't have known that as a kid because nobody cared. It wasn't a sports team that you're rooting for.
Yeah.
No one cared.
It wasn't someone that you were like wearing their logo on your shirt.
It wasn't your identity. There was a handful of people in the system that probably were really into it, but the average person didn't give a shit. It was just something you did every 2 years. You voted, and But now people are so twisted. They want to belong to something, and you were talking before as you were saying that about we take those quick assumptions of people. You know what it is? It's laziness of thought. We're lazy thinkers. We're not even thinkers anymore. We ingest this soundbite shit and we just run with it. How fucking stupid are we? We're letting these people manipulate the little attention we're willing to give in our life. And I mean, hate to say it, but those whack jobs that ran to the Capitol, they took this president's words to mean something that he probably wouldn't have ever really wanted it to mean, and they just took a soundbite and ran with it, and you see how the crowd mentality goes. It blew up. It's insane. The whole premise was insane. So, and of course the reaction against it now is an overreach and insane. And the bulk of us, I believe this, are sitting back, looking at this, just shaking our heads like, this is not pragmatic, critical thinking. This is lazy thinking. These people are maneuvering their life, and they want us to maneuver our lives based upon lazy thinking. No, thank you. I'm not living that way.
Yeah, they're simplifying it and boiling it down to something. For one thing, I say all the time, you cannot make sense out of insanity. You can't. And that's what I think a lot of people want to do. And the people would you or I ever think we were going to storm the Capitol without getting shot the second we saw it? You know what I mean? These people weren't sane. Yeah, that's what I mean. And like you said, taking words and like misconstruing them and stuff. So I think, and I really feel like the media has a lot to do with it. I think I personally give social media a little bit more leeway because that's not it's not so much social media's job. We all get our voice on social media, which that's everybody's opinion either way. But
not everybody anymore.
Yeah. But actual media platforms, I mean, I got really disgusted with the media and their integrity. You know, I think a lot of people are seeing it now the last few years with the elections, but I mean, we were having all these mass shootings and school shootings, and you'd turn on the news and there'd be, you know, in this situation, there'd be victims and their families and first responders, but you never saw any of that. You'd see the shooter and what was in their apartment and their picture and their name and how they grew up and everything. And it was just this in very poor taste reporting that I thought, like, if I had lost somebody in one of these shootings and I had to turn on the news,
Right.
which I mean, unless somebody is at large, I never understood why they did that, but it did.
It sells.
It sells, and that's what people. So that's why they do it, and it lost its integrity for me.
What is news now? Like, what is news? Because, okay, just hear me out. I'll start the conversation by saying I can remember the 70s and the 80s, pre-internet days, pre-CNN days, where, and I'm not saying this was good, but we only had a couple outlets, and it was the, you know, CBS, NBC, ABC.
We still only have a couple outlets.
True.
That's true, too.
And the affiliates. And
now we have the illusion.
But you kind of thought that generally, and there was definitely a liberal slant to a lot of the big, back then there was too, but it wasn't so obtuse like it is now. But if Walter Cronkite said that that there was Nicaraguan guerrillas fighting the Contras that day, we kind of knew it wasn't going to affect our life, but we believed it. That's what we believed. You know, we don't believe anything anymore unless it's coming from people that are on our side or our perceived side.
We want to believe it.
That's not news anymore. That's editorial pieces. That's belonging to a club. You know, like people that subscribe to Fox News or people that subscribe to CNN, either camp, diehards, like day in, day out, people that they're basically in an echo chamber. They're basically belonging to a club, and that's the megaphone mouthpiece, the chant, the rah rah go team. That's insanity. That's not news. That's not news. That's something else. You know, and there's elements of entertainment, and we make news sexy, and that started with 60 Minutes in the 70s. It started then in Inside Edition in the late 80s, and now they're so devoid of creativity in La La Land that they took stories out of the news and created shows like Law and Order, like NCIS, things like that. That's not original content. They're taking stories off reality because they don't have to anymore. Like they're just regurgitating reality and putting a spin on it and then selling it to us as entertainment. And I am including that's how I see it. If I'm wrong, tell me. But what is news now?
Well, no, and that's what entertains us too. That's why, like you said, it
Is
sells.
that entertainment though?
Well, here's the thing: when you're trying to decide what is right, are you trying to feel something? Like, is that your intention? Like, let's say you really got a difficult decision ahead of you. Picture yourself. You got to make a career decision, or you got to decide what you want to do that night, and there's a lot of things at play. It's an important decision. Are you sitting there seeking a good feeling or a strong feeling? You're seeking clarity.
Mm-hmm.
You know? You're trying to put your emotions aside and seek clarity so you can make the right decision.
It's a better way to live.
Sure, but I'm saying, like, just to get us out of the current stage that we've set. You know, I got to make a career choice, or I got to figure out what I'm going to do about this situation.
You need the facts.
Am I seeking a strong emotion? No, I got to get that. Like, if I'm going to make a wise choice, I'm seeking to get that strong emotion away from me.
Not all people.
Yeah,
not all Americans.
Okay, right, yeah.
Less and less every day.
But you're going to make a bad decision.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to make a career choice, I think deep down most people know. And they'll look at it later. Yeah, I quit. I was angry. I should have just, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, if I'm really trying to make the right decision, most people, I think somewhere deep down, they know I need clarity to do that.
Oh,
you know?
We should seek clarity always on everything we do.
So if that's not what the news is about, why are we connecting with it? Why?
Exactly right.
Why are we connected? Like, supposedly, because, like,
Bingo.
ostensibly, like, the news is going to help me see this clear picture of the world around me. And it's like, is that really why you turn on the news?
Has it become like entertainment?
Yeah.
Or a stimulant?
There's elements
Or
of
is
it.
it-
I think the second thing you said.
Yeah, I
the
think it's-
the stimulant. And, like, to take it a step further, because I want to expand on that too, but do you get that need for constant stimulation with a healthy, well-balanced populace? Or do you get that with a lot of people who are all unhappy, jaded, disconnected, messed up, psychologically damaged? I mean, we consume a lot of social media, even though we might talk shit about it, right?
But at least that's coming from fellow citizens.
No, but what I mean,
Opposed to, like,
Yeah.
a media
look
house.
at the fucking memes. Like, I don't know if you see it as much, but I I see memes who are younger people, and even people our age who are sharing, people like in their 30s, you know what I mean, and 40s. All the memes are about how fucked up we all are. That's what people are connecting with. Like, I realized during the pandemic was one of the things, you really want to get a gauge, like a temperature for where people are at. And look at memes. Look at what kind of memes
No
are being
doubt.
shared.
Oh,
You know what I
It used to
mean?
be political cartoons.
The
would do it,
satire.
too.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
now it's
yeah.
The memes are all about, this is how fucked up I am. Can you believe how poor I am? Can you believe how emotionally damaged I am? Can you believe how
Guilty.
obsessive I am? Can you believe how petty I am? Like,
I'm
can
very
you
guilty of that
believe
on social media.
how
Really?
shitty my life is? And I'm going to put it in a funny way, and the meme is relatable and we all laugh, but it's like, take a look at how much we all relate to this and how fucked up we all are. That is the state that we're in. Why? They're selling us what we want. They're selling us what we
yeah,
consume.
they're giving us.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I got the shirt on. I think
see
they're
it.
our fucking enemy, but we're buying it. They're selling it because this is what we want. They got to make a living just like
because
everybody
it's
else.
business, man.
It's
the
business.
Right.
of news.
But that emotional, I need a stimulation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I need a
Yeah.
team to identify with. Like,
Okay, that's it.
yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm coming to you.
No,
but
I'm
you
just
just nailed
enjoying
it.
this
You just nailed. That's the
conversation.
thing. This whole team.
we're unhappy.
This team identity
I
shit
know it sounds
drives
stupid.
me insane.
But
Like, do we
why?
want to
Understand.
belong that bad that we
We're
need
unhappy.
to?
Well, that's like
We're
people
unhappy.
go back to like the idea of tribalism, which is like not a new thing. Like, and that's, you know, to what we were talking about earlier, as far as like, is polarization, is it any worse now than it ever has been? And I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I think it
because
is.
I
Yeah.
think it is in certain areas, but like, think about like, and I know what I feel like I brought this up on a podcast before, but like, think about like when we were growing up, and like, you know, we talk about music so much, and how now, you know, music has like kind of like cross-pollinated with all these different genres blending and all that kind of
Right,
stuff. But think
right.
about how like much you talk about school shootings. Like, I remember identifying with the shooter more than the victims, because the shooter was someone that was alienated and that was made fun of, and that was ostracized. And
Yeah, Columbine.
yeah, and then
I wore
Yeah.
a trench coat to school every day.
I was about to
Yeah.
say, we were in high school at that time. We all hung out with
Not to say
people
that
of that nature,
I
or were
didn't
people of that nature. And
idolize what they did. But
No, not at all.
They
Right.
were from my subgroup. Of,
yeah,
you know what I
but
mean?
that's, and I think like in you know, we went to North Hills. I went to North Allegheny when I was younger, and so there it was a lot about money. So since I didn't live in like a huge house, like I was like ostracized because I didn't have as much money. And then I moved to like, you know, more of like a working class school, and like went to North Hills, and then it's all about sports. And like if you were on the football team, or if you were a cheerleader and you were listening to pop music, like you were like on the right side of what was going on, and like you were definitely like accepted and more favored in like the teacher's eyes. Whereas if you were wearing black and trench coats, or you know, dark makeup
You're
or
not
whatever.
with the school spirit.
Nope, exactly. And like, I mean, I remember I got a cheerleader's outfit to wear for Halloween one year, and like
It was
literally,
pretty hot. I'm not gonna lie.
and I did it
She
with
was all
like
gothed out.
yeah, like
It
with
was
like a
pretty
goth
hot.
theme, and like literally
I still
like
remember that outfit.
I know you do. And I seriously, like, the girl that loaned it to me was like terrified that someone was going to find out that she lent it to me. She was like, you have to promise me that no one will know who you borrowed this from. And like, so like the point that I'm making basically is like, and there was like that whole group of like coming of age movies that came around that time, like the American Pie movies,
Right.
and like all that. There's just like, I feel like we've always kind of been like a culture of like team sports, even if you were like on the freak team or on the nerd team or on whatever. And like now being a nerd is super
Well, that
cool.
sense of belonging,
'Cause, like,
right?
Harry
Do
Potter and all-
No,
do we need
and-
to belong to something?
That's natural, but I think it's the division we're seeing
Yeah,
I
and
think
that's kind of like where
ideas have always been very far apart, but now our emotional connection to ideas and ideologies drives us further apart as people.
Right.
Ideologies being very far apart, or ideas being on the extreme end of the spectrum, that's natural, but our emotional connection to those extremes and it dividing us as people, that's not natural. It happens, but that's not
what
a
I
natural
think they're
state of
playing on, is that everyone has that instinct to want to belong, and so then you create a narrative that states that, you know, this side of the right, or this side of the line is correct and this side is incorrect.
Yeah, these are the good guys and these are the bad guys.
It no longer becomes about the actual politics. It's no longer about, you know, what you believe as far as the economy or abortion or freaking, you know, anything.
It's not about what's right, it's about who's right.
Right. And the problem then becomes, like, you've taken a natural human instinct, which is like, you know, we do want to belong and we do want to have a tribe. We do want to feel like we have people we can identify with. And then you politicize that and you exploit it, basically. And then you control an entire, you know, group of, you know, the media, social media. You're talking about, like, you know, so-and-so, whoever doesn't have a voice. The fact that the big tech companies can basically dictate what our political beliefs should be, it doesn't matter what they actually are. It doesn't matter whether, you know, like, what I believe or who I voted for. The fact that there is an industry that has so much control over the stream of information, and you're talking about what is the news now, the fact that they can basically decide what the news is ahead of time and then create such an extreme, you know, side of the conversation where, you know, the other side that's represented seems so, you know, cuckoo and crazy that, like, you're like, exactly, like, you know what I mean, like, I can't really identify with the right. I mean, like, the far right just seems like my grandparents, you know what I mean, like, it's
I'm gonna spit out my fake beer.
Seriously, like, that's
so apropos.
But it's like, I feel like it was that it's been presented to me that way intentionally, though.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing that I find frustrating, because I don't feel like maybe that I have as much of a choice in what I choose to see and how I choose to see things.
So if we educate ourselves, like, what separates us from the animals? Because I think so many people get attached to that, like, oh, social media, they're controlling us and they have this algorithm and they have this.
Right? We can reason.
Yeah, I feel like, so we talk about that all the time. I feel like it's a lot of knowledge that's out there now. So why, I really feel like a lot of the time change starts at home. Like, I just feel like there's a lot of things we can do to change things, and it just starts with our daily habits, but instead we'd rather look to such a bigger picture.
Okay, so are we lazy in thought in this country? And I think we absolutely are. Number two, most of the people in this country, and this is not going to, I'm not going to get love bombs coming my way here. Most of the people in this country, in my opinion, who are so gung-ho about their fucking team, left or right? These are the same stupid morons that didn't pay attention in civics class, couldn't tell you who the third president of the United States is.
Hey, at least you got civics class. They took it away from us.
The bottom line is, you didn't give a rat's ass about any of this Americana stuff for most of your life. But in the last 2 years, to join a fucking team so you feel better and to be entertained on what you see in television now, which is more exciting than watching any of your Lost shows or any other garbage you ingest on a weekly basis. You joined a team and it happened to be Republican or Democrat. And you think you're so embedded and loyal and these are my heroes, and you're an asshole because you don't know at all what a political platform is. And if you would know what a political platform, you'd be astonished that there wasn't one this past year, and you'd want to know why, but you don't care. See, you don't care because you're going to spoon feed, you're going to take everything spoon fed to you and ingest it as gospel because it's your side. You don't have the mental fortitude to critically think about what you're really buying into, because that would require thought, and you're too goddamn lazy, because I just think we're lazy, period, intellectually in this country. We have to have everything spoon-fed. How many people lay on the goddamn couch every night, pandemic or not? We only care about numbing ourselves and taking our mind far away from reality because it's easy, it's titillating, it's easy, and we're being told it's sexy. You know what? There's nothing wonderful about being stupid. Yet half of this country is voluntarily stupid, lazy, and it drives me crazy that you would give up your mental intellect and choose a side on something because of laziness. These people aren't left or right. You could ask half these Republicans what the history of the Republican Party is. What is conservatism? What is conservatism? They can't tell you. They can't tell you. What is supply side economics? They can't tell you. Or the history of liberalism? They can't tell you. They don't know, man. You can't join a team and pledge your life to a team when you don't know what the fuck they stand for because you haven't taken the time to figure it out. This is insanity to me. To run your life that way? No, thank you. No, thank you.
Well, I'm going to bring it back to what I was saying, though. And this sounds stupid to my own ears, but give me a second. I said it before. We are unhappy. Oh, boo fucking who, you're unhappy. Believe me.
That might be the cause of it.
I'm the first one to be like, oh, you're unhappy. Too bad. Go to work. Do what you got to do. Take care of your family. You know what I mean? Figure your shit out. Like, I'm very much a believer in that. But, like, I just saw you. You know what I mean? You get the way I get sometimes. You got passion. You got fire, right?
It's insanity.
No. The way you get. You know what I mean? You got that fire, right? You can get passionate. You can get worked up.
Absolutely.
I can get that too. You know what I mean? But what do you do when your passion goes out, when your fire goes out? You know what I mean? You're like, they're lazy. And believe me, I get in the same, like, why can't you just find something real to believe in and quit watching cable news television to tell you every fucking thing that's real in life? Go find out for yourself.
But
go
why is it
experience.
important to people? Why is it important to identify as a Republican, to identify as a Democrat? There's so many other cooler shit in this world to do.
Why do we have to be right or wrong? Why does somebody always have to win?
Absolutely. Bingo.
What
That's
do you do?
the number one thing.
The hypocrisy that on both sides is what gets me, because it's so much harder to humble yourself and say you might be right or I might agree with you a little bit than to say what about isms or you know what I mean?
No humility in this
No, it
country.
takes a lot of vulnerability. It does.
Right.
Yeah, humility. We've lost the ability to be humble in this country.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
look,
and-
we're going on and on about like everything that's wrong with us. But like what I was alluding to is, what about when that fire goes out? You know what I mean? You're like, why do you need someone to identify with? Why do you need a team to join? Why do you need this constant stream of shit?
Right.
What do you do when that fire goes out? What's left? Work a job you don't particularly like.
So they're
Some
not happy
people
with
do.
themselves.
Some people do. But just everything. You know, you see the one meme, gestures broadly at everything. That's another meme that points to how unhappy and how jaded. It's not just about unhappiness. People lived through the Great Depression and found a way to get through it. I'm sure they were seriously fucking unhappy.
No
but
doubt.
When you believe in something, when you've got something inside of you,
So
and
you're
for-
telling
and
me
this,
that's why they're
I'm not saying that I know one way or the other. I just see a lot of people who are not just disenchanted, people who don't believe in anything. It's like the real person that's inside, that fire, that flame, whatever it is that causes you to just say something when you didn't even realize you were about to say it. That's spontaneous, you know what I mean?
That's where creativity comes from, you know?
Right. But it's easy when you got that fire inside. You ever been depressed? I struggle with depression, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When that fire goes out, man, I know me personally, I'll look for anything. If I'm in a bad place and I can't like get back up where I need to be, I'll look for anything to fill that void. Because that crushing emptiness, I would do anything not to feel that way.
To feel, period.
To feel totally alone. And I think that's the way a lot of people feel. Like,
could be.
You know what I mean? I will tell you for sure. I've heard it time and time again. So many people, you know, there's a mental health crisis that's going on.
Believe
and it's not just since COVID. We have had like
absolutely
the youth. I mean, almost as many people are diagnosed. It's getting to the point where more people are going to have a diagnosis than people who don't. So it's normal to be what people consider to be mentally ill, and the people who are mentally and emotionally healthy, they're going to be in the minority. So when you have this nation, not just this nation, like so many developed nations especially, we're totally just broken. We don't know how to process life. We don't know how to grow emotionally. We're crippled. We're totally just, we're like splattered on the road, just like twitching. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck do I care if I'm watching cable news? Like, what do I care if I'm watching Netflix? Like, I don't have anything inside that really means anything to me. I just want to be comfortable. I don't have anything better. And I don't think that people realize deep down that there's an alternative. And I think really that's what politics is about now. It has nothing to do with inspiring thought. You're kidding yourself. Get out of here with that. You know what I mean?
It's a team.
That too. You need to inspire a feeling in people. And that is what people follow.
They should choose music instead.
Yeah, but I mean,
or something.
If you can inspire
less
someone,
polarizing,
right? But if you can inspire someone in a way that it makes them feel something and it inspires their mind, and it inspires them to imagine a better world, a better solution, a better way to do things, then I think that is a real, what you call a platform. You know what I mean? It's an actual ideology. But when you when you just pull at people's feelings, number one, it's easier, and number two, I think you get a stronger reaction.
It's a great point.
When you have a populace that is just, we're disenchanted, overall as a society, we're fucking broken. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's something, sometimes you hear people talking about it, you hear pastors talking about the brokenness and how we need to heal it, and here's my solution. And that's, I think, another thing that I was alluding to is, like, when someone comes at me with an agenda, be it political, realtor, right? You're trying to sell me something. Like, anybody comes at me and I suddenly realize they have an agenda, I don't trust them anymore.
Right.
So it's easy to spot the agenda, but if you have you have an agenda, but it's a private agenda. And that's what I mean. Like, anytime you suggest, like, something going on behind the scenes now, immediately, like, are you conspiracy theorists? Are you on that team? Like, there's a C team that we haven't talked about. It's the tinfoil hat team, you know? And they're grouped in with, like, the right-wing conspiracy theorists. But a lot of times, like, they don't trust the right or the left. They're just like, I talk to you about your ideas, and I'm interested by them. And then I'm like, oh, you believe there's listening devices in your cheese. Okay. I didn't realize we were on that team. I'm not with that team. You know what I mean?
What kind of cheese?
But now it's almost like it's dangerous to admit that you not only challenge, but that you question what the authorities are telling you. And if you, like, I know from being a manager, like, I'll call myself out. It is easier when certain guys do not talk to each other. When they don't all get together and start talking to each other. It's not because I'm trying to screw anybody, but it's just, you're running in all these different directions. It makes my life harder. Sometimes it's for the best. Sometimes good things can come out of it. But if you're leading a country, is it good if everyone gets together and, like we were talking about, like you said, this whole spectrum of reality that isn't team A or team B, you know what I mean? Is it good for you if we realize there's more than A or B, and we start communicating and
well, that's not good for the powers.
And
the powers
evolving our ideas together to the point where we start realizing, you know what, we could drive our own policies because we're the ones who vote.
Why doesn't that happen?
Right. We really have
question.
the most power. And, like, to what you were saying, I think, like, we aren't responsible for how we feel. Our feelings, like, you can't
help how you feel right now.
You can't help how you feel. You can control how you act. And I think through a lot of this, people have lost tact and respect, and that has been the big problem. And like you said, I think, you know, for some of the people that have some of these conspiracy theories, and I totally believe, question everything. Question everything. But does that necessarily mean you're going to arrive at a better answer than we've already been given?
Especially
Not
in the
all
first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You question it, right?
Not all the time. And I think it is harder for some people to hear that maybe they're not as special as they think they are. Like, maybe you're not so important you need to be microchipped.
Or
you know what I mean? Like,
maybe they're not actually listening to you because that you don't count as for, like, you know, 10 people. You're just really one person.
I think that is the harder thing for some people to hear, instead of thinking, like, so I think that is why some people get, like, a little defiant, because they feel like getting defiant is,
it's a feeling.
And it's them feeling like, oh, I'm smart, I figured this out. I figured it out.
Well, and I think everyone kind of wants to see behind the curtain in a way. And like, it's funny because
Yeah.
we were talking about like,
Oz,
you know, not
I am the
wanting
great
that.
Oz.
But I think that there's like, you know, that kind of instinct that like you said, you either want to be the person that figures out what's going on, you want to be the person that provides the information.
Enlightened.
Yeah, you know what I
Yes.
mean? And like and there's a lot of like draw to that too. And I think that's where, you know, a lot of these like supposed like C-team conspiracy theorists like kind of like get a little lost in the weeds, is because it does start to feel really good to think that even if things, you know, even if it could mean that literally your entire reality has like, you know, no meaning whatsoever, and that, you know, everything you've been told is a lie.
Where's you heard that before?
But there's something to that's like, you know, sometimes better than the narrative that we're given on a day-to-day basis, when you know that really, like, I'm sorry, like, I don't trust I don't trust the news, not just because I think that there is like some crazy thing happening behind the scenes, but because I do believe that everybody that's providing me with the news has an agenda, and that like their interests are better served if I leave watching that piece with an opinion.
It's not news. The word news to
But that's
me,
just
and my
it.
interpretation of it is unbiased of a explanation of what events.
Yes,
But-
but they're still purveyors. Like,
Yeah.
the news isn't free. I mean,
Exactly.
it never was. A newspaper always cost, what, a nickel?
Yeah.
25 cents, 35 cents. They were always selling you something, right? Part of what happened
PBS?
that's true.
McLill?
Yeah, but they had
Neil
donors,
there,
right?
Yeah.
They still had their donors, and
They had that little like telethon once a year.
everyone has some sort of board of directors that they're trying to please somewhere, even if it's just in your own head. But
True that.
they're selling something. They always were. Now,
Yeah.
people, it seems, used to buy news to get informed.
Right.
I'm not going to say that's not why they buy it, but there are journalists who are quitting, and they're saying straight up, it's because, look, I've been told not to report on certain news stories. Like, we are told to sensationalize
It's not
the news.
journalism
Like,
anymore.
Clickbait is what we do. If it doesn't elicit a strong reaction, it gets you to click on it and suck you in. They're not interested in it. And journalists are quitting and citing this as the reason, because now we have shorter attention spans.
You don't
We
know.
do have everything at our fingertips, and we do need kind of that instant gratification.
Yeah.
If they just reported if it was just very middle ground, I mean, maybe we'd all be bored and we wouldn't watch it.
Plus, it's got to grab you right away in the age of clickbait. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, as much as, yes, shame on them for not doing their jobs, they're still private entities, and they're selling something.
And
the problem is we're buying it.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
And that's the slippery slope that we have with social media now, and their ability to silence or censor any of their users based upon their perception of safety. I mean, it's a really slippery slope. I mean, we talk so much about what the hell's wrong with society. We're good at that, aren't we? What do you think, if anything, can be done, or what kind of movement would you like to see? Even a seismic change in society that you think would help heal or help wake people up to this simplistic way of judging people, labeling people, and acting out on impulse and acting out on sound bites, and just wake people up to realize, look, this is not a good way to live. We need to have a seismic change. Is it possible? Is it possible? Are we too far down the road we're headed with social media and polarization and anger and depression and discontentment and entitlement and laziness and all that stuff? Can anything be done? Or are we headed toward a dystopian future?
We could be. Some people would say we were always headed that way. It's funny, if you look at the literature from like the 30s and 40s and 50s. I want to take and make like a timeline. Someone was talking about how there's
one. Like
there's
all
a,
those future.
There's a timeline, like, as far as like all the sci-fi movies where we're at, like we're right at RoboCop and headed into Mad Max. You know what I mean? Like where the sci-fi movies took place. We're past where Blade Runner was. It was my sister.
The outfits were so
Yeah.
cool, though.
Yeah, but I want to create a timeline as far as where we're at. Like, okay, we've already passed.
1984.
We've already passed. No, 1984. I mean, yes, timeline-wise, but like where we're at society-wise, we're already like past Atlas Shrugged with the economic collapse and stuff. We're headed right into 1984, And then we're probably about like maybe 75 years before Brave New World.
I was going to say, I think we're getting closer to Brave New World because, like, if they're not going to let us actually travel anymore, the next thing is going to be, you know, hey, do you want to take this pill for vacation?
But the technology in Brave New World is
you're right.
Wait, when you say, help me out here.
Brave New World was where they, like...
Aldous Huxley?
Aldous Huxley wrote it, and they basically genetically engineered everybody. Like, you were a separate class in society.
Alpha,
I remember
beta.
Alpha, beta. The one thing I remember
was there a movie made of that?
Maybe.
I had to read an English class.
It was more
we
about...
went to the same school, so...
Yeah. There might have been. But they would genetically engineer different... And you were part of this class. You were genetically engineered to be a part of this class. Like airplane mechanics, they would mess with your inner ear so you were only truly happy when you were upside down. And they just geared you toward... They genetically geared you towards whatever class and society that you were going to be a part of.
Right on.
And like alphas and betas could still mix a little bit, but there was like still, you know, like there was definitely like a differential, but they were like allowed to mix anything. What were they like? Were the rest of them?
I don't remember that much. I read it a while ago.
I mean, they were based all mostly on the Greek alphabet. I feel like that was like what they were using for all the deltas.
Yeah.
But there were like once you got past beta, like they were like not allowed to mix with those two at all. Like you weren't allowed to be
you had like a
friends,
ruling
weren't allowed
class.
to like yeah.
But some people would say we've always been headed towards that future, and I think for the longest time I was like, you know, it's going to come down to this revolution, and that's where a lot of people are at, whether you're on the right or the left. You think there needs to be a revolution, whether you believe it's like social justice revolution and we're going to rise up against, you know, our capitalist oppressors and all these mega rich corporate, you know, scum, or whether you're like, oh, well, you know, it's going to be the new patriot revolution where we're going to rise up against all these, like, you know, oppressive, dictator-type, far-left communists. But you got both sides of the extremes that we talked about, both looking towards this revolution when our side's going to win, our team's going to win. And I was probably recently more of a Team C revolution person. You know what I mean? We're all going to escape from the simulation, and we're going to do something crazy that wakes everybody up and
escape
smashes.
To where is the question?
Well, and I think
here.
Whatever,
right here in this room.
To now.
Whatever revolution is going to help the average person, I think it's not going to be like you said. I don't think it's going to be sexy. And
it's not be man-made.
I don't think it's going to be sexy. It's not going to be this huge, like, you know, this guru came along and showed us the way, or this party came along and finally got everybody's shit together. You know what I mean?
Oh, the Bible thumpers will love that when the one guy comes to unify everybody.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it needs to be like rediscovering that we have a place in this world and that we don't need 1,000 followers to validate it, and we don't need a political party to endorse it, and we don't need a bunch of investors to throw money behind it. It's basically rediscovering that we have a place in this world. It's rediscovering the cheesy answer. It's rediscovering ourselves. That's a little too new agey. I think it's rediscovering each other and rediscovering that we can have real conversations like these and that we can guide our lives in any way that we want to.
What about what's the value of an individual? Like, does friendship have a value? Does your interaction with someone at work, is there a value there? Meaning that we got to separate value from currency. But the value, I mean, you ask the definition of value, most people can't even tell you. Meaning that how do we equate goodness or enrichment from interaction with people? Because right now, it's strictly currency. It's strictly money. It's strictly what is in it for me.
This sounds really existential, but I think it really comes down to whether you believe your life has or can have an actual meaning. And I keep coming back.
But a meaning to who, though?
To you. That's the bottom line. Who cares if my life means something to somebody else? And I think for me, like, you know, you were saying, well, what's it going to take to wake people up? I mean, the bottom line is, who cares if your life, aside from making sacrifices to provide for others so that they have a better life than you have, you know what I mean? Like, we all get up and go to work, and a lot of people have families. Yes, there's absolutely value in working hard to provide for others. But I think whether your life has meaning to you is important, and not just some kind of manufactured meaning that we come up
Interesting.
with based on some ideals that were impressed upon us when we were young by our parents and others who helped shape and form us as human beings and as individuals. Like, do you have a meaning in this world? Does your life have a meaning in this world? And if not, why are you still alive? Why are you still here? I'm not suggesting that anybody out there check out, but we're all so jaded, you know what I mean? We're really jaded, and it really just comes down to, I got to find a comfortable place where I'm not going to be like stuck in anxiety and depression or just wasting away. I need to find something to do with my time so that I'm not driving myself insane. I got to be as comfortable as I can be and find some kind of identity that I can live with.
Like, do you separate the definitions of having meaning and purpose, or are they synonymous?
I think in some ways they're synonymous, but I mean, what is the purpose of your life? Like, my purpose is to get up and go to work and pursue the things that give my life meaning and blah, blah, blah. But really, like, I could find meaning just in a conversation or an interaction with somebody. And I think the main thing that is tearing us down right now is that we're afraid of each other. Mm-hmm. We're afraid, like Cassie was saying, we're afraid to admit we're wrong. We're afraid to be vulnerable around other people. We are afraid of basic human interaction.
We're afraid of humility.
Yeah.
Self-humility.
I think a lot of people too are afraid of they want to be heard. They don't want to be censored. But I think until we learn to have like accountability, patience, tact, all those things with ourselves, we're not going to have it with each other. We're not going to have it with each other. And I think everybody thinks that we're trying to like shut them down. Like, don't tell me how you feel. Don't tell me how you, and it's not that. I think it just, I think we all have outlets. And I think if we could have a lot of understanding in each other, we could get our point across a lot better, as well as in ourselves, trying to make sure that we are putting forth the effort to understand other people. But like I said, that's going to take a lot of, I mean, people have lost their patience with other people.
No
They've
doubt.
lost their...
Yep. Yeah, because we all want to be understood and we all want to hold other people accountable, right?
Exactly. Exactly. You know, what's the saying that we make rules for other people and we make exceptions for ourselves?
That's a good one.
Yeah, I remember that. That's definitely true.
Why is it so important that we find somebody to blame for everything? Why does it always have to be someone
Accountability
else's
is
fault?
hard.
Yeah, it feels
That's hard
really
to tell
bad
yourself.
whenever it's
Yeah.
like something's your fault. Like, 'cause I know, like sometimes things are my fault and I hate it.
That's humility, though. That's like, I mean, like the humility thing.
Because it sucks so bad. Because even like all of our conversations are like not scripted, but they're all like, it's that Edward Snowden thing with the permanent document. Like literally, like every interaction, not every interaction, but so many of the interactions that we have now are documented because they're happening on social media. And so then there's this like weight that's carried with like, you can have like a misspeak in a conversation, and it's just like, you know, maybe you know, say the wrong fact, or like, you know, you forget the name of something, or like you just stick your foot in your mouth in any way.
Unless someone had their cell phone on, they can't take it and then show it to thousands and thousands of people, and that happens on social media.
It happens all the time, and that's how people are getting canceled. And so everyone's like living in fear of like, number one, like being wrong, basically being perceived as wrong.
Can't live in fear.
And then, you know, there's a difference between like censoring yourself to not want to offend people, but then also
That's called being polite.
It is. But then there's like a point where so much of our, and this is where I think, you know, you can look at this however you want, but I mean, even look at like, you know, the four of us had to schedule a time to sit down and have a podcast together that's obviously documented. And this is like something that I think is important, because you asked like, how do things change? And I do think like the long form conversation podcasts, you know, because it's like a thing that people can kind of like, if I didn't have podcasts to listen to at work, I would go insane. Because I'm so used to like having jobs that like I can have conversations while I'm having my job happen. And I transitioned into a job where I have to do, you know, documentation and all that kind of stuff, where like I can't just be talking all day long. But I miss that like social aspect of like my previous jobs. So it's like it kind of fulfills that void. And I think a lot of people, especially in the tech age are in that situation where they feel isolated. So many people now are especially working from home. So this kind of like interaction is important, but at the same time, like so much of our interactions happen online, you know, virtually, whatever. So it's like you don't really have the ability to just be spontaneous and just be yourself.
Yeah,
that's
so
why
you hit on something really important. You said so many of our interactions are scripted, and that's kind of what I was alluding to when I said we're afraid of basic human interaction. You know, we're afraid to get out outside of the box, almost afraid to open our mouths and then not know what's going to come out next. I have to run it by my head, and trust me, that is smart to do that.
Yeah,
as often as you can.
But we're just having a conversation, and I'm just expressing myself, and I'm not all fired up, and I don't have to. Well, I'm emotional. I want to be careful about what I say. You know, just putting myself out there and being like, "Well, does this violate my identity? Does this violate who I identify with? Does this make me appear in a way that I don't want to be seen?"
Boom. That's the problem. Is that we give too much credence to what other people think about us, when in reality, oftentimes no one's fucking paying attention.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean,
are you that important?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And we're so, like, especially people who deal with anxiety and social anxiety, you're worried, oh, I did this one little thing wrong and everyone's on. It's like, yeah, okay, in 4th grade, we were all looking to find one person who had the weird-looking shirts. We could just roast the shit out of you. And people are mean. Like, people still deal with bullying in the workplace and cyberbullying. Like, people can be dicks. That's very true. But, like, up in the headspace where it's like, I'm going to do one little thing wrong and everybody's going to see it, most times people aren't paying that close of attention. And that's kind of where I come back to as far as, like, does your life mean something to you? All these people, this imaginary committee in my head that I was talking about.
a good way of putting it.
All these people I'm trying to please, they're not looking nearly as hard as I think they are. And so if I can step outside of my own box, and if I'm brave enough where I can show somebody else a little bit more of myself that I'm really comfortable with, it could lead to a totally unexpected conversation. Could just lead to a nice interaction between me and a person where we were being real with each other instead of following the script that I think you kind of made reference to. And it might lead to something totally different. It could lead me down and that's, I think, what we've lost is that anything that, and it's a frightening thought, is that anything in your life could lead to something totally new and unexpected, and it could lead your life in a totally different direction than what you thought it was going to be. Oh, it's terrifying. You should be. No, that's something you should be afraid of. Change is frightening. Because it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it frightens me. No, and it is, because you might be afraid of what happens next. You might be comfortable where you're at, but to not know what's going to happen next. Like there's that one 9 Inch Nails song. Every day is exactly the same. I repeat the same thing over and over again, and so I can see the future. I can see into the future. I know what's going to happen because I don't change my routine. I act the same. I talk the same. I get in the same conversations with people. I espouse the same sort of opinions. I don't have to question myself. I don't end up in a situation where I'm not sure, like Cassidy was saying, whether I'm right or wrong.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it is that this life that maybe you're comfortable, maybe you're happy, maybe you're not, but you can end up in a totally different spot in your life, and it doesn't necessarily mean physically. You could just wake up after taking certain steps in your life and really be at least a lot closer in the kind of life that you used to dream about.
Isn't that exciting though? To me,
It
like
is.
the change, the idea of concept of change as a human is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's.
It is scary though.
But well.
It is.
I guess maybe I'm just wired weird, but I think the diversity of life and the unknowing. I mean, I would, I don't want to, I don't. If I'm going to be sick next week, badly sick, I'm going to get some kind of disease. I don't want to know about it right now.
Sure,
I'm
I feel the
saying
same.
I want to know that,
Yeah.
but
I would never want to know when I'm going to die.
but
Oh,
no,
God,
I
no.
wouldn't either. No,
Yeah.
but the randomness of life, all that stuff, that's the juice of life. I mean, I wouldn't want to. I could never sit in a cube all day. I just couldn't do it. It drove me insane.
You know
I had
why
to be
this doesn't
out
surprise me
doing
about you?
stuff.
It's because you're an entrepreneur.
I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
seriously though.
I guess.
No, to be an entrepreneur, that is frightening. To take your financial future in your hands and just say, I'm going to go off the beaten path and I'm going to work for myself.
I will tell you, man.
It's frightening.
I probably should have had more. Maybe I should have had fear when I didn't have it, but I'm not wired that way.
Yeah.
But back to your point about conversations, that's the richness of life to me. And
I agree.
I'm not sure that text messages or listening to a voicemail or a one-way conversation like a TV program. That's not communication. That's not even communication.
You've got way too much time to think about what you want to say in a text message and erase it 7 times.
Not just that, but like there are friends that I just can't see as much as I would like to, especially now. Like Kelly texted me today to make a phone date with me because I usually will call her every week or so just because I don't see her as often as I would like to, and she's someone that is important to me, and I know, and I try to do that. Like if I know that I'm not gonna, and it's a different timetable with everybody. You know what I mean? Especially now with I used to have, we all kind of had a group of friends that we knew we were gonna see usually once or twice a month because we were all going to the same shows. And now, I mean, obviously that's not happening. So it's I have kind of a schedule of people that I want to keep up with. Yeah. And so I don't keep it super organized, but I do pay attention to whether or not
you're putting in the effort.
Yeah, because I know that texting with people it's nice to check in with a text message, but that's not the same as talking to somebody. It's just
Zoom is not good. I'm sorry, it's just not. And the reason I say that, I'm not saying it doesn't have a place. Right now we have to use it, I guess, because of whatever the circumstances society has. I guess we have to use it now. But that's not a positive thing. I don't think texting is a positive thing whatsoever. I am old school in that if we are not really communicating with each other, I mean, people don't want to do this. I've asked people to be on this podcast who'd be fascinating people in my headspace. Some of them, 3 of them now, have actually told me they're not comfortable talking to people for more than 5 or 10 minutes face to face. Not because of the pandemic. This is before the pandemic. They're just not in the conversations because they've gotten so used to their workflow, and they're really about the messaging life. It's better for them. They've actually said that to me. Now that's the most bizarre thing
I can understand.
I've ever heard.
I can understand.
They're not comfortable sitting down and having a conversation.
But especially
I'm
when
a
you said
big
workflow.
texter.
Are you?
Yeah.
Well, I think we all do it.
No, but it's functional. You know what I mean? I could see getting into that.
No. I think you have to. And in my career, I have to do it. And I see it's good to get a quick message to someone. I see the pragmatic use of that. I don't think, though, that is pushing society forward. I think that is pulling us apart. Well, it's part of what's pulling us apart.
And the one thing we didn't even touch base on is two people. We were in our no, it wasn't our honeymoon.
It was when we were in Europe.
It was when we were in Europe. We were in Rome.
Like the most romantic place in the world.
I have to swear. We were in fucking Rome. We were in fucking Rome. Like Rome. There's pictures of it and shit. A lot of people don't ever get to see
in
it.
textbooks.
I
saw it in school.
Dude, there was a young couple, and we went to this. It was I think we went to the Jewish section, and we found a really good restaurant. I mean, every restaurant in Rome is freaking amazing. It was amazing. But we specifically sought out the Jewish section. So we heard the food was really good there. We wanted to go to one of these restaurants, and we look over, and when I'm looking at her, and she's looking at me, and there's this young couple, early 20s, you know?
And neither of them were Italian, you could tell, because they didn't look Italian at all. You know what I mean? So they had to have been there from somewhere else.
Oh, yeah, you could tell they weren't local.
Yeah.
They're the entire time.
Yeah.
We're in Rome in this restaurant. We're taking in the ambiance. I'm just enjoying the experience. We saved for 2 years to come here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe y'all just got it like that, and you could just decide to come to Rome and miss
Fuck
it
off on your phones.
But I waited 2 years to come here. I'm pretty impressed. I don't know what the hell. I don't know what you were expecting, but this is what I came here for. Great food, history and culture, and just
the texture of everything.
It wasn't just
beautiful.
they were on their phones. It was the
whole
we
time.
both noticed it after a while. We're like, are you getting a load of them over there? They're just sitting there the entire. I
and
might
this was
do that
2011
at Denny's.
too. So I mean,
this is before
they probably had Facebook. I mean, because I remember I didn't have a smartphone yet, and it's not that I didn't I just didn't have one because I was like, the way my job worked out is I had like the laptop at home, and I think you might have had your very first smartphone at that time or something.
They call that T9 texting, right?
But literally, like, it's like, so, I mean, even like, I don't even think Instagram was a thing yet.
They were younger. I remember.
I know they were younger. So I mean, they
early
were
20s.
probably on Facebook. They were probably just on the web or whatever. But like, literally, like the whole time staring at their phone, and I'm like, oh my god, like,
It's everywhere.
oh, it was just so aggravating.
Yeah, and you do see it everywhere. And I mean, that's an exaggerated example of the fact that, hey, I spend a lot of time on my phone. I spend time on my phone for work, and you know, sometimes I like to play games on my phone. Sometimes I will I'm guilty of just mindlessly
Are we present?
scrolling Facebook. But yeah, that's a big part of it, is that I think more and more people are living what they think of as their lives in a digital space rather than
Here.
yeah.
Oh, I love Facebook and social media. I love it. I love seeing other people enjoy their lives.
Sure.
Yes.
Knowing that a
Yeah.
lot of it probably is made up. but I mean, that's a great way to
To stay
really
in
stay
touch.
current with everybody that's important to you.
But is
Yeah.
that your life on there?
But this is not the fact that podcasting is a thing in society. You know, that shows us that we're doing it wrong. People were thirsting for real conversation, and we're not giving it to them on a day in, day out basis. Something's not right.
I think they're afraid. People are afraid to open up to one another.
But what about, we had talk shows for a long time. Remember?
But were they real? Was that real?
I don't know.
I
don't know.
It wasn't the long form conversation that I think this
The Mike Douglas
podcast
show.
and, you know, like the Rogan show.
Yeah.
I mean, shows that are basically like it's not.
Unscripted.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big thing that they talk about, you know, with like how he grew so quickly in popularity was because like people were so used to the formula of like a scripted show.
Oh, yeah. That's what
and
attracted me to
podcasts
it.
were like, you know, kind of these weird things that people, even some podcasts were still at that point very scripted,
Oh,
and he
yeah.
just kind of went on and like,
Some store.
A lot of them, yeah, they're like an interview form. You know.
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No,
but if it's genuine back and forth,
Yeah.
it's not. Rogan to me was attractive because there was really like a realness there. It wasn't the bad language, or it wasn't the crazy topic. Sometimes it was random stuff, but I mean,
It's very
it's just-
authentic, yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. Like I'd never seen in broadcasting in my entire life. Nothing was ever that raw and real. That wasn't really offensive. I mean, I don't find his show offensive. Like you could go to watch two comedians go at it, you know, off color stuff. But this is like something you really could spend the afternoon checking it out.
It's not Howard Stern.
Exactly right. That was my point. I think it's real. Although Howard's become a great interviewer in his day. He was
No,
one of the
I
greatest
meant
interviewers I've ever
back in the
seen.
day, like the shock jockey type.
And that was
I'm
a lot
going
of
to say
script, and that's a
something.
lot of scripted shit there too.
Sure, that's what
you
I mean.
know?
It's not offensive in the way like this is extreme, and I'm saying it to shock you.
Exactly right.
It's just a real conversation, and you really get a look inside someone's head without them trying to dress it up.
All right.
And I think that's what's lost in real conversation is
Yep.
like, especially with social media. I mean, you're not seeing someone's real life.
No.
You're seeing snippets from it, but
Yeah.
it's so much of people trying to present like, oh, look at me, I went to this cool club, and it's like, you even with like protests, some people are going to protests. There's
yeah.
video of them literally getting out, like
car, taking a picture.
Instagram influencers getting out, putting the mask on, and holding up a sign. And literally, the video shows them just getting right back in the car, and they're posting that on their. I'm just like, I know I can be critical sometimes, and I can get negative, but I'm like, you are the lowest form of life that there is, and that's another extreme example of what we're seeing, which is just like, I need to project this, and it was always a thing to a point where you want to idealize yourself for other people, you know, but like,
Well, you always want to put your best face forward,
Sure,
right?
but
When you're in an
Yeah.
industry that you know that really is made off of people putting
But
their best face.
this is
forward.
projecting a false image, and
That's
now
their
it's
false narrative of them.
It's increasingly a digital image,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
I think another thing is too, though, we've adopted this culture where we aren't always, I think because we aren't happy with ourselves, we're not happy with the things we see on there, and then we become critical of it.
Haters.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've talked to two beautiful friends of mine that I mean, I would be biased because they're friends of mine, but I think anybody walking down the street would think they're beautiful girls. And they both told me, like, it's hard for me to get on social media because it just makes me feel bad. I see these pretty
See, that's
girls.
sad to me.
And I'm like, yeah. And it I don't know if it, I don't know what the answer is there. I think a lot of the time, if I get on social media and I see a beautiful girl, I think that's great. I have a lot of joy for somebody who's posting things that are happy or good. I mean, we're not always the realistic life that everybody's living is. We're not always going to be having a good day. Somebody else might, though. And I mean, if they're posting something that is maybe just exaggerated or, you know, maybe not completely true, that's on them. But if I'm seeing it, I'm going to try to like find happiness for them instead of kind of like, I mean, I'm not criticizing because I see what you mean. There's things that I see that I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you posted this. But I mean, as far as like, I don't think I've ever like really gotten on Instagram or something like that and saw a beautiful girl and it made me feel worse about myself. I'm happy for her. If she feels like posting that, good for you.
But there's a lot of that going
she's
on
feeling
there,
herself.
Yeah, like,
well, that's,
I
do think that's like kind of like the negative trap that women fall into is it's like these two extremes, and it's very difficult. A lot of women do not find inspiration in each other, and that it's sad because I agree with you. Like, whenever I see like, especially like, I understand, like, I'm almost 40, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not, like, the Instagram generation, really. But I love, like, following Instagram models. I really do, because I think, like, what they're doing is just, like, they're kind of, like, freeze-framing their life in this certain way, and, like, a lot of times they caption it really well, like, you know, and I get that they're using filters and that a lot of them have surgery.
Use a filter if
like,
you want to. I feel like it is, I feel like
good.
Instead of us looking like, oh, it's so fake, it's just a different type of art.
It's art, right?
Yes,
It's art.
exactly.
It's always been that way. Like, magazines have always been that way. And that's part of where, like, I feel like you just need to kind of have a little bit of perspective and be like, okay, this isn't necessarily the reality that I'm aiming for, but it's just eye candy. You know what I mean? Like,
I think I want to pull focus for just a moment and say I think you're both emotionally healthy women. And just like you said, the old magazines with the airbrush and stuff like that.
It's always been that way.
Well, I know it. I get
and you're
that.
aware of that.
Well, that's what I mean is now that we have young people growing up where they're seeing
not just their
they're
friends,
seeing life through that lens. Like, we get that this is not someone's real life. It's almost like just the best parts of their life. But people who live more and more of their lives on social media, especially growing up, like you were saying, hey, this wasn't the internet. I'm thinking we were the last generation to remember when there was no internet.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
sure.
Like, young people who are being raised in a culture where they're seeing this not real life, and that's more and more what they're experiencing of life.
you're right.
You know what I mean? Like, the one thing that
They're becoming more self-critical.
I think they're they're like, I don't live up to this. Everybody's living these great lives, and I'm depressed. Like, so many people have anxiety. And I know I keep coming back to the mental health thing, but like, I cannot overlook the fact that so many people are just messed up and unhappy, and I think
no
it's
question.
really playing
No
into the
question.
general state of things. Like, the one thing when we were talking about this that occurred to me was I learned a while back, in countries where there's no television, there are no eating disorders.
Right.
They don't know what that is.
That's interesting.
They do not have them there.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like someone will come on and be like, that's actually not correct.
There's
But
gotta be one
I
out there.
remember reading this. I
No, I remember you
researched
talking
it.
about that, yeah.
And in countries where they don't have television, they don't have eating disorders.
That's crazy.
Well,
But
and
you
it makes perfect
understand
sense
it,
if you
though.
think about it, because like it's the type of psychological disorder that would be manufactured by like a visual standard
and
almost.
holding
You know
yourself
what I
up
mean?
to an impossible standard, basically.
And that's
Right.
honestly the unfair part of it being like, I think you're right, like a young person kind of coming up and I feel like, you know, we focus a lot on women, but like I think that men experience it just in a different way. You know what I mean? But it's just that like it gets expressed a lot with women, especially because like we are held to a standard of like, you know, health and beauty and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of the thing that's bothering me. And this was actually brought up on a podcast recently, is that like Cosmo recently, I guess, did a cover that had like an obese woman on it and was like, this is healthy too. And it's like, well, actually that's not healthy.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that we're so focused now on like trying to create a balanced discussion in body positivity that it's like, there becomes a point that it's like, yeah, everyone has different genetics and everyone's body is going to kind of like evolve in a certain way, but there is a point where it's not actually healthy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
So what are we promoting?
exactly. And that's where I feel like we've created a really weird discussion now, because you don't
Feelings.
you don't want girls to have eating disorders, because that was a huge problem for a really long time. And I feel like it's gotten a little bit better, but now it's like we're giving
The
people
Lifetime movies.
Oh God.
I'm just like,
The puke in jars in the closet.
I had a
Oh,
flashback to
God.
that exact. We're talking about the same
I know,
Lifetime movie.
I know.
That was the flashback I had where I was
know.
like, oh yeah, that was bad.
But it's like, you know, then you've got the other end of the spectrum where
Let
it's
these
like,
poor girls eat.
now it's like we're just telling everyone like, oh, you know, everything's healthy and everything's beautiful, and it's like, you know, like you do have to, you can't just, you can't, it's not just a free-for-all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same, like Jer said, with like
Moderation.
mental health. I think a lot of the time on social media, if we're not using it correctly, or if we're not looking at things a certain way, it's really easy to even fall into that trap. And I know, like, I personally am pretty guilty of that. Like, I'm a very sad clown. Like, when I'm at my worst, I'm my funniest, so I might post something funny, and it's just a way to cope. Is it the healthiest way to cope? Maybe not. But like you said, there are so many memes that go along with that. And I think there's a lot of that out there, but I think if we're more intentional with how we use it or look at things, and you did have a good point. We are like kind of the last generation. We remember like not having the internet, and
I remember when we got the internet, I was fucking excited.
Yeah, and
I
I
got
was-
America Online, and that thing was dialing up.
it was like dial up.
Like,
You're right.
It's coming.
And we had
It might
chat.
take a lot of time.
We had
but
chat rooms and
my God.
all that stuff. Yeah, and we didn't have, you know, like what there is a lot available to these kids
It
right
was
now.
a special thing. The internet was a special thing back then.
Yeah.
Now it's part of life where
Yep.
Yeah.
it's crazy to think that when I was young and I had a weird question that no one had an answer for, I'd actually go to the library,
You know,
and
it's-
see if there's an answer. And sometimes there wasn't an answer.
They're
Then the
talking
library.
about
Yeah.
how Google's making people not dumber, but less knowledgeable.
Inquisitive.
Less knowledgeable, because now you don't need to know shit.
You
They don't
you
retain the
really need
information,
I
knowledge
see
yeah.
it in my own kids
Yeah.
in the way they
You remember
study
you
for
always had
tests
that one
and-
friend who always knew, just like ask so-and-so. So-and-so knows shit like this, like about maybe
Right.
presidents or
Right.
cars or this or
They
that.
just got
you know?
interested in something and purposely
Yes.
learned about it.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they became knowledgeable in it because you didn't have access.
I believe
at
it, but
your
now you have
fingertips.
everything. No matter, and it's like I sit and say, "Wow, I laid in my bedroom up on Ridge Avenue at 10 years old and wondered about like the space program. You know, did we really land on the moon, or what year was that? No one knew. Your mind would just go,
Yeah.
well, you think it happened because you saw it on TV, but did it really happen? And just like now, any idea you have, someone else has probably done it. You can find it, or a question about the world. The answer is at your fingertips. Nothing challenges your thinking in your brain anymore. I know I'm talking as an older person. I'm just saying it's so different today. The world is at your fingertips, literally. Everything is right there.
Right. I'm very guilty of it. I feel like I don't have to remember anything or retain anything because I can just look it back up
I saw
on
this
my
meme.
phone.
I saw this meme. It was like you have a supercomputer in your pocket and you use it to shit post and watch porn.
I know. I've seen that too.
That's wrong.
It's true. I mean,
Yeah.
we have something in our pockets that we can access
Anything.
most of the information available to humanity. You know,
Ever.
Yeah.
Remember
Ever.
Encyclopedia Britannica?
Hey, I still
Do you
have
know
it.
Yeah.
I have a
Book
set.
before,
Oh
you
God,
know
so
what I mean?
annoying. And now, like, they like really like force you to like cite your web sources, and like I get that, but it's just like, oh man, like,
But that's what I mean. I don't think we're valuing knowledge and information.
Do you read?
the way we used to? I don't read as much as I do. We were actually talking about this. I listen to audiobooks in the car, but
Okay.
I love to read personally. I don't
Yeah.
make as much time for it as
Okay.
I like to. I work a lot.
Do you read?
Yeah, and that's what we were
Like
we were
books and publications and things?
Yeah, I'm not as much into. I told them I can't. I have a hard time getting into fiction because I
Okay.
can't like
Yeah.
get into that. But I said the same thing. I'll read something and I don't retain it because I
Okay.
just.
I was just saying, I think I realized I'm like more of an audio learner because I do read fiction some, but we're watching The New Stand right now, the new series. I've read the book I've never like he's always remembering like different characters and their interactions. I don't know. I don't remember, but I do still read some nonfiction.
Yeah.
And I buy a lot of nonfiction books. I don't read all of them. I just like.
Well, I mean, there's just like
We just like to look
when you
smart
say
when you
people
come into
read-
our house.
I know we have a lot of books that neither of us have read. Just kidding. We have a lot, but I start them. You know what I mean? And I've like if it's nonfiction, I don't necessarily read it start to finish, but I do like play around in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if it's fiction, I will still read fiction. I'm reading, but I'm reading a book that's about this thick right now, and I've been reading it for probably like 2 months. Because I don't pick it up a ton, you know what I mean? Like I just do it like every now and then I read a few pages and it makes me happy and like I kind of like enjoy the story.
I remember when the internet started, there was school administrators and teachers that were so happy. This is going to encourage people to read. They're going to get all this information, you know, and it's going to encourage them to interact and read. And it just killed books. People aren't reading. They're reading sound bites, like written paragraphs, or, you know, they're reading the Drudge Report, or they're reading, you know, things that interest them. That's it. But they're not really picking up a periodical or a work of art or work of literature and reading. It's a weird life.
I've been really bad about too lately. Like last few years, I'll pick up like books that I've already read and reread that. Like I just reread Fight Club that I've read like 10 times already, but I just like wanted to read it again.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
I just don't have.
I have books like that too. They're just like from familiar friends.
Yeah. So.
Did you have fun?
Of course. Always. I'll see you on Saturday.
Yeah, I know. The story continues.
Same bad time, same bad chill.
I want to thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Please come back and we'll do this again.
This was fun.
Yeah.
I love this room.
Thank you.
Can I just say that?
It's very inspiring.
I love being
Appreciate
in this
that.
room.
It inspires good conversation.
Got my fake shit pipe up there. My fake water pipe's up there.
That's better than a real shit pipe being up above your
right?
head.
Especially when it leaks,
Just
right?
saying, yeah.
I'm glad that's a fake one. I like that.
I never would have known it was fake if you hadn't pointed it out.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. It's funny because there's a toilet flanges that are holding against the wall.
I like it.
But thank you. I appreciate it.
No, it's
Thank
a
you
great
for being
space.
here. And we're going to do this again.
Yeah. I
Sounds
like it.
good.
Do this again. All right?
Thanks, Eric.
Thank
Friends.
you.
Oh, you're welcome. We are out.
Peace.
Peace.
Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.